What's up, everyone? Welcome to Normal America Show. I'm your host, robnoerr. So, before I get started, just know that I have a different computer set up today for various reasons, which I can get into. It's boring, but if people want, that's fine. We can get into it. Having said that, this computer may overheat because I'm streaming to too many places. If that's the case, I will stream exclusively to Twitch. So if you're watching on Twitter, Kick, YouTube, and it shits the bed, go over to Twitch. My Twitch handle's just robnoerr. So for all of you on YouTube and the other platforms, please consider following me on Twitch as well as a backup plan if things don't go right, which they probably won't, because I just don't have good luck with that sort of stuff. Oh, you know what? Then I forgot. Here we go. This is going to be a big mess. Give me a second. Phone, sign in with Google. I'm going to sign into my Twitter account on this new computer. There we go. Let's see what we can do here. So, anyways, it's nice to see you all. I hope you're all having a great day. Let me know if the audio works. The camera's a little funky, I could tell. It's just slightly delayed, but we'll deal with it. I'm unable to continue to use my computer that I had been using. It's a desktop I'd been bringing into work, but I'm probably not going to be able to do that anymore because my setup changed here at work, so I don't have space for it. So I'm back to using this laptop that I got refurbished. So hopefully it's enough to be able to run what we're doing here with streaming. So it's great to talk to you all, though. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. I did. I came into work Saturday. But other than that, I got to spend some time with the family, had a good time. My brother's doing good. I think he goes back in on the 14th to get his eye looked at again, so hopefully everything goes well with that. But yeah, happy to be here. We'll try to goad some lefty into calling in and, I don't know, fighting with me or whatever. This guy says on Twitter, what makes the left authoritarian? I guess if you're watching Alice Kirsch Project, we'll talk about what makes the left authoritarian. Thanks so much, Allison. Really appreciate the sub. 23 months. What have you been doing with your life? No, I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. And thank you to everyone else that subscribes to me, donates money, things like that. So I thought we'd talk about Gonzo Lira, which Tucker Carlson did an interview with his father, but we could talk about whatever people want. The Fareed Zakaria thing was something that I wanted to talk about as well. Not the most original thought that I have on it, but something that I think bears repeating that I've said over and over again when it comes to people like Bill Maher and Fareed Zakaria. So we could talk about that. We'll start there if you want. So Fareed Zakaria, who's CNN, I believe, average lefty. Caligula. I can't wait to talk about that. Those people... Dylan and Adam and Sitch, I think it'll be great to talk about them when it comes to the Gonzo Lira story. But real quick, we'll start with Fareed Zakaria at CNN. So he's calling out diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI initiatives at university campuses, saying that campuses are now becoming too political and not focused on academics. I have three schools of thoughts on this. Two are basically connected. And then the third. This is difficult. I've been talking about this ever since we've seen, and I'm quoting now, anti-Semitic speech that's been popping up since October 7th on college campuses. So let me tell you what I think of this. First off, the idea that, we have the ridiculous presidents from, Penn that resigned, and, they're coming out making statements saying, yes, calling for genocide, this and that, that would be considered harassment against our policies. I think it was Michigan, was it or maybe it was Hochul in New York. I don't know. Whitmer or Hochul, I think it's Michigan, said that they're gonna be looking for this hate speech on campuses and going to be doing what they can as a state to curb that out. Make no mistake about it. This will be used as a red herring to further go after conservative speech, to go after speech of people that want to talk about illegal immigration or want to criticize Biden's foreign policy or criticize Ukraine or insert whatever issue that conservatives or populists want to talk about. That's what they'll use it for. If you want to know the playbook, go back to, and again, it's a story that I've covered many times, I've talked about, but oftentimes what will happen is there are these seminal stories that, to me, illustrate a problem with clarity. Go back to when it was, I forget who it was all the time, I think it was Rashida Tlaib, who said, it's all about the Benjamins, talking about AIPAC. It might have been one of the other members of the squad, but one of the members of the squad, Econoboy, Rashida Tlaib, a few years back, was criticizing the Israeli lobby group AIPAC, and said for them it's all about the Benjamins. And this was considered anti-Semitic speech. Now, I've given my piece on this, and people that think that I'm just some virulent, I hate anyone on the left and always go against, it's not true. I defended the squad in this instance. I said, could it be that they're anti-Semitic? Yeah, they probably are. Is this statement anti-Semitic? No, it's not. You are well within your rights to criticize the lobbying arm of the Israeli government and not hate all Jewish people. I do it. It was Omar, okay. Now, is Omar? Thank you, Gizmo, I appreciate it. How you doing, my friend? Thank you for the gifted sub. Now, is Omar an anti-Semite? Probably. But I'm not just going to fly off all half-cocked because she said something about Israel's lobby donates all of this money to basically control politicians in this country. It's true. There are many other lobbyists that do it as well. No one would say if you said, the oil lobby, it's all about the Benjamins for them. No one would say, whoa, that's bigotry, that's hate speech. In fact, most people would say, yeah, it's true. That's what lobbyists are about, money. Yep. But you couldn't criticize AIPAC. Now, after having defended her from that statement, it was agreed on by the left and the right. The right because they just want to point to the left anytime they do something and say, see. And the left because their entire thing is about, accusing others of bigotry. So they're all like, oh, okay, we'll put out a statement. And I was the only person in the country that I remember seeing that went through the statement that they put out. And I've done it several times since then on this show. So the left gets caught with their hand in the cookie jar. They're like, yeah, okay, anti-Semitism. We'll say something about it. So they put out a statement that condemns all bigotry. Like Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and bigotry against the trans community and against the gay community. Right? You see? Everything but Christian white men. They mention any bigotry against them. Just those other groups. They said, we condemn all of that bigotry. And this is what happens. They make themselves look like victims even as they're forced to apologize. Right? That's what their cultural Marxist view allows them to do. They are always the victim. And being a victim makes you the highest moral character. And if you're of a higher moral character, then you could do whatever you want to your opposition. So even when you, in playing the power struggle game, have to admit a small defeat, okay, something may have been said by us that runs afoul of our own cultural Marxist logic, you just turn it to make yourself the victim again. That's what you do. Like when a radical member of the trans community in Nashville, who, by the way, we still haven't seen their manifesto, decided to shoot up kids at a Christian school. All the speeches we heard was about bigotry against the trans community. And we can't release the manifesto because it could be dangerous to members of the trans community. You see? You see how that works? The shooter was a victim as well of transphobia. If you have radical Islamic terrorists butchering people on October 7th, then the problem that many of the people on the left say is Islamophobia. That's what we're worried about. And that's the old Norm Macdonald joke, right? So, which, if you've never heard him tell the joke, it's absolutely fantastic. Where he's making fun of Margaret Cho. He says, hey, I have a friend that their biggest fear is that Islamic terror group will get a dirty bomb and detonate it over an American city, killing millions of Americans. And his fear is the pushback that members of the Muslim community will get after that. And Margaret Cho's like, oh, I know. Not the millions dead. Who cares about that? It's a fantastic book. That's exactly what's going on. Never let a crisis go to waste. So you have radical members on the left that want to be, radical and defend terrorism or ignore it or make excuses for it. Just like same type stuff with Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter goes out. Members of them are burning down police precincts and burning down shops and looting and harming people in significant ways. And they're like, but they're the victim. They're the victims. Because they're the good guys. They're the oppressed, so they must be the good guys. Instead of saying, yeah, that's fucked up. Yeah, what they're doing's bad, but there is a problem with policing in this country. That's a reasonable take. No, they were like, well, it's the language of the unheard. There's almost no violence. What violence? Peaceful protests. That's what they did. Same with October 7th. I've talked about this many times on the show. I have no problem, but I choose to not get... My stance is quite simple. The United States shouldn't be involved. We should not be giving money to Israel. We should allow Israel to deal with the situation as they see fit. We should stay uninterested. It's a dime a dozen how many countries you could point out around the world and say they're engaged in terroristic behavior against certain populations in their country or elsewhere. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of people, neocons and neolibs, making excuses for the United States to get involved in these conflicts all over the world. Tired of the situation in Ukraine. Tired of the situation in Libya. Tired of the situation that was in Afghanistan. Tired of the situation in Syria. Tired of the situation in Israel-Palestine. Done with it. That's not even to get in Saudi Arabia and Yemen and many of these other countries. Tired of it. And I don't even have, as someone who used to delve deep into topics that I really care about, like corruption and stuff, who doesn't have the time I used to now because I'm working 90 plus hours a week and I'm a father and I like spending time with my family, I don't have the energy to go back 80 years and look at the history of the conflict between Israel and Palestine. This is what I do know. I know that I don't know. And I know both sides are adamant that they're right, and both sides have been prickish. That's what I know. Is it possible that one side's worse than the other? Probably. Not our business. Stream is going well, Wushu. That's my take on it. So if you're a pro-Palestinian person that thinks Israel has Palestinians in an open-air prison and are committing genocide against them, you might hate me for not standing up and saying, absolutely, I agree, blah, blah, blah. But at least you shouldn't hate me for saying, well, I think the United States shouldn't be involved. So we shouldn't be sending weapons. We shouldn't be sending money. We shouldn't have aircraft carriers right there. Just hoping that they get attacked so we have an excuse to get in there. If you're pro-Israel and you're like, screw Rob, he doesn't think we should defend our ally, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm saying we shouldn't be there, but Israel should handle their business as they see fit. So you shouldn't hate me too much for that. That's it. Now fight amongst each other. I'm neither of your enemy. However, what I have said is, the one position that I think is not tenable is defending the actions of October 7th. You could say, I think that those actions didn't happen. I think they were lies. Okay, I think we have evidence that some really heinous actions directed specifically at civilians occurred. And I've explained how it's different than what Israel's doing. Now, it's not different for you and your family. If you're Palestinian, and I've talked to several on the show and on my space, if you're a Palestinian or you have family in Palestine and Israel launches a bomb at what they are claiming is a Hamas site and it kills your aunt or uncle or cousin or brother or sister or mom or dad, it's all the same to you. You're going to be like, fuck them. And rightfully so. I understand it. Just like if you're Israeli and it was your daughter that was murdered, you're not going to want to hear some blowhard like me saying, no, it's time for a peaceful... I get that. I totally get it. But, let me say, there is a difference between launching a bomb at military or terrorist targets and it kills innocent people versus actual soldiers intentionally on the ground targeting and murdering civilians. There's a difference. And it's okay to hate Israel, and it's okay to think that they're committing genocide in Palestine and all of that, and say, but that doesn't justify Hamas going into a music concert and butchering people. Doesn't justify it. And what I said on October 7th, and on maybe it was October 8th, but as soon as I talked about this incident, within a day of it happening on October 7th, I said, if the people were saying, look, I don't believe this happened, that's fine. I might say, I think you're wrong, but fair enough. Who knows as more information comes out? That's fair. But those that were assuming that it happened and saying, that's okay, it's a good thing, or, no, fuck you. That's the cultural Marxist that says alleged rape, murder, targeted civilians intentionally. Oh well, they're all oppressors. Who cares? I can't abide that. Now, going back to the college campuses argument. So, given that that's my stance on the situation, again, if you're someone who's like, look, I'm pro-Palestine, but Hamas sucks, they're a terror group, that doesn't mean that we should punish everyone in Palestine, much like the United States has horrible people that run the show there, like those in the CIA or something like that. We don't blame every American for that. You shouldn't blame every Palestinian for the actions of Hamas. I'll listen to that all day. That sounds reasonable to me. Yeah, I'm not here to carry water for Israel. In fact, I've said I think Israel is going too far. I think that there would be they know, for example, that many of the leaders of Hamas are in Qatar, and yet they're indiscriminately bombing people on the ground. Now, I also know Israel's in a difficult position because, like, if there's a ceasefire and Hamas is just like, yeah, cool, we're still not going to release most of the hostages and we're going to start launching rockets and stuff, what do you expect Israel to do? And the cultural Marxist and even some reasonable people that are on the left or libertarian-minded or something, there are reasonable ones, of course, that are saying, I don't like war, I don't want Israel, I would rather have a ceasefire, etc., etc. When you ask them, well, what should Israel do? If Israel has a ceasefire and Hamas attacks again, what's Israel supposed to do? And their answers are always just like, well, Israel should give Palestine everything they want. That's what they should do. And then Palestine will release the hostages. I'm sorry, that's not the way it works. That's not reality. You could say that you think Israel should give the land back and this and that, but that's not what's going to occur. A stronger military, and in this case it's Israel, they're not going to say, okay, we'll just give you everything you want. You might want that. If you were dictator of the world, that maybe that would be the best policy. I don't know. But it's not going to happen, and it's absurd to think that that's a realistic proposal. Well, thank you, Sarah. So going back to college campuses, that's the first take, that they're going to use this. They'll say, yeah, anti-Semitic, but that's not how it'll be enforced. They're not going to bring the hammer down on, like, trendy, progressive, woke lefties. There might be one or two, but they're not going to really bring the hammer. It'll be conservatives. They'll say, oh, yeah, you remember how we had those we spoke up when it was people talking anti-Semitism. Now we're going to speak up when it's people talking insert any conservative cause. Anti-mask, anti-COVID lockdown, or whatever the next lockdown will be. It's hateful. They didn't use the right pronouns. Thank you, Half Empty, for the follow. I really appreciate it. That's where they'll use this. The other two things to say is, I do sympathize. I sympathize with people that are Jewish if they have to hear the president of their university say, well, yeah, I'd have to check to see if calling for genocide is against our harassment policy. It's gotta suck to hear. Now, full disclosure, and you can believe me or not, I did policy debate. You should believe this. You could look it up. There's articles on it. But I did policy debate in college. I debated for a university called Clarion University, a small state school here in Pennsylvania. And I debated at the highest level of policy debate. Made it to the highest the highest tournament that you could qualify, the National Debate Tournament. I heard we should genocide men and genocide white people all the time in debate. But I actually didn't have a problem with it, believe it or not. Debate is a game about hypothetical ideas. And for me, nothing should be off the table. If you want to stand up, if you want to stand up and say, our plan is to nuke China out of existence tomorrow, you should be allowed to do that. It's a game. It'd be no different than playing a game of Risk, the way I look at it. It's a game, so you could say, I want to kill all white people. The problem I had was, you couldn't say, I want to kill all black people. Couldn't say that. Now, I don't want all white people to die, and I don't want all black people to die. But I fell in love with the game of debate because I was like, it's this playground of ideas. Nothing should be taken personally. You could theoretically say, I want to kick everyone off welfare. And it didn't matter if my family was on welfare. I didn't take it personally. It was a game. That was it. And the fact that the game's rules were always selectively enforced to encourage the most radical left-wing positions while censoring even the mildest right-wing positions became pretty ridiculous. And it wasn't just censorship. You would just lose. Like, if you read Coercion, you would lose so many times. It's sort of a libertarian critique that government shouldn't be able to use power. It should be about libertarianism, free will. You'd lose almost instantly with probably 40% of the judges. Now, the one argument I didn't like into debate was when they became personal. So saying, like, kill all white people, I didn't take offense to that. I didn't look at it like... and you've seen clips of this recently, right? Where you'll see high school debates. All these clips are on Twitter now. Oh, kill white people and stuff. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is when it's directed at an individual. So they'll say, you're white, you should lose. That's different. That's taking it out of the realm of the hypothetical, we are a government taking actions, and we can hypothetically advocate for heinous actions. Versus you yourself are immoral because of your skin color. That's different. That's a complete different level. And that's what I hated about debate. It became that so often. It was about who you were and who you knew and how you looked. It was nonsense. I hated that. But nonetheless, it wasn't like ever super offended or anything. So the idea of, can you call for genocide of a group of people on a college campus? It's really, really close to me saying, sure, you should be allowed to do that. Really close. Because I default towards defending free speech. And if you want to stand up on campus and say, I think all white people should die, you should probably have the right to say that. Now, it gets iffy. Calling for someone to be murdered on a college campus where tax dollars are going, dicey. Very dicey. If it was your private home, sit out there and shout it from the heavens. If it's your private university that gets no tax dollars, of course, say what you want. But it does become different when my tax dollars are going and you're allowing people to say, murder everyone of a specific race or ethnicity or gender or sex or religion or dicey. Now, the real answer, so does that mean they shouldn't be allowed to say from the river to the sea? No. I understand that there are people that are saying that mean we think that every Jew should be wiped out. There are other people that are saying it that are saying we think there should be no state of Israel. They should be allowed to say that. I don't have a problem with that. I might think that's a stupid idea. I can understand how people that are Jewish could be offended by that, but I think they should be allowed to say it. That's where, and we'll get into this, you see these presidents that testified that all the hubbub was about, they're dumb. That's the real problem. They're stupid. They're diversity hires. Now we're finding out they were plagiarizing. It's evident. They're dumb and they've never been challenged. So saying the most woke thing has always been acceptable in their line of work. It has worked 100% of the time. So when it comes out public, and now their wokeism, they're still correct. Their apologies are bullshit. That they got their positions because that's what they believe. They believe in this woke bullshit. They believe in the cultural Marxist ideology that the whole world is oppressors versus oppressed. That's core to their belief. They're not very intelligent scholars or workers. They're not. The only thing that was different this time is there were a bunch of Jewish people that heavily donate to these schools that said, okay, then we're done donating. And at the end of the day, these people's alleged morality, all of these people on the woke left, their alleged morality is always fake. And as soon as it came to losing power, in this case money, which would help the indoctrination of these universities, which is power, all of a sudden their morality changed. Oh, wait. If you want a good example of this, go back to my debate with Dylan Burns, where we were talking about vaccine mandates. And he was all for vaccine mandates. And he was for vaccine ID cards, that you had to show an ID. For example, he was okay with the law in New York that said to get into certain stores, like some grocery stores and stuff, you had to show your vaccine passport. By the way, probably against voter ID, but thought you should have to have an ID to get groceries. Make it make sense. So I laid the groundwork in this debate way back then in like 2021, showing actually natural immunity was superior to vaccinated immunity. He finally concedes. Now at this point, Biden's proposed through OSHA vaccine mandate would be any company with over 50 employees the employees either had to show that they had been up to date in their vaccine with COVID, or they had to get tested every week. And it's a pain in the ass to get tested. At least it was back then. That was before the home tests were really coming. So I'd been tested because I do in healthcare. I'd been tested probably 14, 15 times. It sucked. For me, I had to drive 45 minutes away. It was always like an hour wait once I was into the place. So to do that every week would have been a huge burden on me. So finally, when we get to brass tacks, I said, do you think even people with natural immunity that had a previous case of COVID should have to get tested every week if they're not vaccinated? He said, yes. And I said, okay, given that natural immunity, as you've conceded, is stronger than vaccinated immunity, do you think you as a vaccinated person should have to get tested every week? And he says, no. And I say, why not? The person with the previous case of COVID has more protection than you that's vaccinated. So if he has to get tested to make sure he doesn't spread the disease, why don't you? To make sure you don't spread the disease. And he's like, okay, never mind. I guess the natural immunity doesn't have to. You see, once it's an imposition on these woke people, then it changes. The rules are for you, not for them, because they're good people and you're not. You're chattel to be controlled. You are at best a nuisance to be controlled, but if you become something that's greater than that you're a threat to them, then they will increase their intensity of what they suggest to you. Jail time, censorship, or even worse. As we'll get to in our conversation about Gonzo Lira. So these presidents of these universities, they are dumb, but they've also never been in an environment where just being the most woke wasn't the answer. That's how you get promoted there. Asking them to apologize is nonsensical. What are they apologizing for? That's who they are. They believe that. They believe that if someone says, my pronouns are zer, and you don't use them, you should be kicked off of campus, and they would probably choose to prosecute you if possible. They believe in the strongest punishment. They believe that's literally violence. Why? Because you're an oppressor and the trans community is oppressed. That's it. It's that simple. That's all they care about. They have a preferenced group, the oppressed group. In this case, it's trans people. Trans people are oppressed. Therefore, the highest punishment possible should be offered to anyone that goes against that group. Simple. They're not smart people. It's very simple. Jewish people, well, they're oppressors. So can you call for the genocide of them? Yeah. Sure. Why not? That's it. That's what these university presidents were thinking when they testified. It was that simple. It's just, okay, wait. You don't even have to use the labels like anti-Semitism. You don't have to say, you have to say, this group is oppressors. Is it okay to call for their death? And they would say, yeah, that's probably okay. This group is oppressed. Is it okay to not use the pronouns they want? No, that's violence. But we're not calling for their death. We're just not using their, no, you can't do that. They're oppressed. That's it. That's simple. And they're smug about it. They're all saying the same thing. They're basically like high-fiving each other. Yeah, like, it depends on the context. Right? Next one, the context. It depends on the context. Next, over to you. Oh yeah, depends on the context. And they were just like deep inside, like, little squirrel girls like high five. Yeah, woo! That's it. They're dumb, and it's always worked for them. So of course that's what they said. Then they get home and they're like, yeah, we're going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars because of you. So guess what? Your ass is on the line. Now get out there and issue a phony baloney apology. Huh? What? Oh, okay. And they don't know how to act. They've never been told. What do you mean? I'm a woman of color. I'm a woman. What do you mean I have to do something? I'm oppressed. You can't tell me what to do. I'll guarantee at least one of these presidents comes out later and is like, it'll be a little while, but they'll be like, I was pressured into doing this. And the reason I was pressured was because I'm a person of color, because I'm a woman. Wait and see. Definitely going to happen. Guarantee it. And they'll allege, I was forced out by men. But how bad can I feel for people that are huge donors? In this case, there are donors that happen to be Jewish. I think the voice of them is this guy, Bill Ackerman, who's sort of a guy who's defended these universities and things like that now is calling them out. Jewish guy, or at least I believe he's Jewish, if not just calling out anti-Semitism. And he's shocked to see the virulent anti-Semitism. I'm not shocked. Are you shocked? Anyone who's paying attention that's called out this insane batshit stuff, that showed example after examples of professors talking about the need to eliminate white people and courses designed to take on whiteness and all of this stuff that we've been seeing. Anyone who's been involved in academia in the past 2 decades, like me, as a debater, then a debate coach, I'm not shocked. I've seen it. I see it in real time. The truth is, 95% of those people now that are speaking up like, this is outrageous, the anti-Semitism, not only didn't they have a problem with it when it was directed at other groups, they supported it. You see, those donors were more than happy to have the woke, cultural, Marxist, diversity, equity, inclusion agendas at universities. Because they saw themselves as beneficiaries. They said, as Jewish people, we are oppressed. I remember this quote from Jon Stewart saying, Jews and black people should come together to fight white supremacy. We're victims, right? That's how they looked at it. Now, brief side note here. Are Jewish people oppressed? Yes. Are they also oppressors? Yes. Are white people oppressors? Yes. Are white people oppressed? Yes. Are black people oppressed? Yes. Are black people oppressors? Yes. Are gay people oppressed? Yes. Are gay people oppressors? Yes. The truth is, any group that you can identify that these cultural Marxists try to do has both oppressors and oppressed. And as an individual in any of those groups, you could be both simultaneously. For example, depending on the situation, the location, the time, and a bunch of other factors, being black could be beneficial or it could be a detriment. Same with being straight, same with being gay, same with being Christian, same with being Muslim, same with being Jewish. When you allow universities to adapt the ideology that says some racial groups are preferenced because they're oppressed and others are demoted because they're oppressors, you have set the stage for failure. You have set that is racism. That's what you've done. And when you say, it's just like the left, right? It's just like when you see the left where they're like, we're all for cancel culture. Yeah, we're all for it. And you're like, can't you see how this will be used against you eventually? They can't see it. All they give a shit about is power. And when you adapt this cultural Marxist oppress versus oppressor regime, and you say, I'm oppressed, therefore, you always think that you'll be considered oppressed. You can't envision yourself as being an oppressor. And that's true of these groups and people that were donating that were Jewish. They're cool with it because they're oppressed. What they didn't realize is the same people that they're radicalizing, these students, these teachers, these people in academia, and many people in politics and elsewhere, they look at Jewish people as white. That's what it is. They're white. So Jewish people say, you're right, white people are oppressors, and we're Jewish. We're oppressed. And black people say, you're white, white people are oppressors, and Jews are white. That's it. That's the difference. That's the big discussion. Similar to the feminist TERF's discussion. The radical feminists said men are evil, the patriarchy's evil, women are good, and the trans people said yes. And biological men that say they're women are women. And the feminists said, no, you're not. You're not. You're not a woman. We're oppressed. And they said, we're even more oppressed, the trans people said. Because not only are we women and we're oppressed as women, but we're also trans. And we're oppressed by cis. So cis women are more oppressors than trans women. You see? And now you see all these radical third-wave feminists that are like, well, wait a minute. Wait. Having the exact tools and strategies used against them that they were more than happy to use against men. So there's two schools of thought on this. Do you say to people like Bill Ackerman, listen, I'm glad you're coming around to our side now. Can you see how it was ridiculous to label white people or Christians or men or straight people or any other group, simplifying them as merely oppressors and denigrating them all through academia? Can you see how that's a problem as well? Can you see it? Maybe we should stop all that. We're happy you're on our side now. That's one strategy, and it's probably the strategy we should employ if we actually want to end this ridiculous shit. But don't tell me that there isn't part of you that wants to look at those people and say, fuck you. Fuck you. You were happy to donate hundreds of millions of dollars to these universities when they were doing the exact fucking thing they're doing now, just to other groups. It wasn't your group, so you're cool with it. Yeah, fuck those white people. Screw men. We don't care about that. Screw Christians. Don't give a shit. Screw conservatives. Don't care about them. Now that it's your group, you're like, oh, wait. This is unacceptable. If they kick down anyone that said from the river to the sea tomorrow, do you think the people that stopped giving money would say, that's not enough? Enough of this diversity, equity, inclusion, this racist woke shit, the critical race theory, enough of that shit on all the other areas as well. Do you think they would say that? Of course not. They'd say, good. As long as you can't criticize Jewish people, that's great. Just like you can't criticize black people, or trans people, or gay people, insert group. Many of these people just want to get back in the in crowd. That's all they want. We'll pull our money until we're back in the in crowd. Then we're more than happy to go along with it again. They don't give a shit that there's people in the out crowd. So I think we need a healthy mix of skepticism that says, I don't believe you. I don't believe either you're stupid and you couldn't see that this was going on for decades, or, okay, now that you realized what happened, you're going to keep that ball rolling other than more than just speech against Jewish people, right? And that's the real problem with these universities. I would not be horribly offended if... this is what, when I said they're stupid, this is what the presidents should have said. Yeah, no one's directly called for genocide against Jewish people. We haven't heard that. If I heard a professor stand up and say, I want to murder all Jews, yeah, we'd probably have a problem with that. But what you're doing is, you're saying people that are saying that Israel is genocidal, or people that are saying from the river to the sea, those are called for genocide. And we don't believe so. We believe that context matters. That's a better answer. But they're too stupid and they're lazy. And again, I've talked about this before. When we talk about privilege, are white people privileged? Sure. Are they also underprivileged? Yes, in other ways. Same with black people, straight people, blah, blah, blah. Through the list again. But here's a real privilege that I have. Here's conservative privilege. Every opinion that I've had about politics or culture, I've had to defend to people that will openly and publicly call me out on them. Particularly in the debate community, which is the left of the left. Every single opinion I had, from the beginning of college when I started to get interested in politics to my entire public life since, every single opinion I had, from being a big Ron Paul supporter, to hating Obama, being a small government, libertarian-minded person, cheering for Trump in 2016, I've had personal relationships, friends, family that have flipped the fuck out on me, co-workers, fellow students, etc. Had to defend. There was always someone that didn't feel bad publicly calling out my positions. That makes you stronger. It makes you better able to defend your side and your positions. So many of these people on the left, particularly young people, they've never came across someone that disagrees with them. If they have, usually the person keeps their mouth shut. Because the left has won the cultural narrative to the point where you could openly be a leftist. No problem. You could wear your politics on your sleeve. But if you're a rightist, my goodness, you'll be shamed, you'll be yelled at, and we just accept it in this culture. I can't tell you, I've talked about it before, I can't tell you, because I do a politics stream and I debate it and stuff like that. I'll go to friend or family events like weddings and funerals and stuff like that. Never in a million years in that context would I bring up like politics like, oh, Mr. Lefty, how about this? I never do it. I just know that it's a wedding, I'm not going to ruin the wedding. Now, if we're going out for dinner or something, we're going out to the bar, sure, that's different. But like a serious event, I wouldn't do that. They'll do it to me without batting an eye. It's just accepted. And then it's up to me to be like, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, Trump sucks. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyways, how about this chicken, you know? These leftists went through a high school with a bunch of lefty teachers. Then they go into college with a bunch of lefty professors. Then all of the entertainers they like are a bunch of lefty people. Then all of the political personalities they watch, lefty people. The media that they consume, lefty people. And then they run into an articulated right-wing person. They don't know what to say. Even at the highest level. Even if you're the president of Harvard. You're not ready to defend your position. You sound like a fucking fool when someone calls you out on your bullshit in a public stage because you've never had to do it. Because your entire world is surrounded with like-minded people. So you're weak. Iron sharpens steel. They've never ran into iron. It's just yes men all around. Their whole life, it's been people that agree with them. Their whole academic career is surrounded by left-wingers. The only criticism you get is from the left. From people that are more left-wing. That's why they suck so bad. That's why they weren't able to come up with an obvious answer that me and 95% of my audience could have came up with. Well, people aren't really directly calling for genocide. It's just that so many people want to say that they're calling for genocide, when the context could be that that's not what's occurring. But sure, if someone just stands up and says, murder all Jewish people, we'd say, yeah, you can't say that. Now, I wouldn't have even had a problem if they'd have said, hey man, free speech. If you want to stand up and say murder all Jews, you should be allowed to say it. I'd be okay with that if they embraced that free speech ideology in other areas. So that it was evenly applied. You want to stand up and say kill all blank people? Go for it. Free speech, baby. Until you start using violence or aggression towards someone, you can absolutely say it. Problem is, they're like, well, there's certain groups you could say kill all Jews. You could say kill all white people. You could say kill all Christians. You could say kill all men. Can't say kill all women. Can't say kill all blacks. You see? That's the problem. That's the real issue here. And we have to be careful because you don't want to fall into the trap where you're like, I'm offended that they said that genocide, you could call for genocide of Jews and it's just the context. I'm offended. Because understand, what the left will do is they'll say, you're right. We hear you loud and clear. We're not going to allow people to call for genocide of other groups. And those people on campus that are calling for a secure border, well, that's calling for genocide against the noble immigrants that come here. So we won't allow them here. You guys said it. You guys said we shouldn't allow people calling for genocide. And anything I disagree with is genocide. So we'll kick them all off campus. That's what they're going to do. The problem's not that they were wishy-washy on whether or not you could call for Jewish genocide. The problem is these very same people would throw your ass in jail for using the wrong pronoun. That's the fucking problem. The blatant double standard. That's what needs to be called out. And if you allow them to reframe it as, we hear you loud and clear, can't call for genocide of people, that's what they'll do. They'll take it and run with it and say, all the right-wingers, all their positions are calling for genocide. Oh, you're against the massive spending package? Well, it has welfare programs for poor single mothers, so you're for genocide of poor single mothers. You can't say that on campus. Oh, you're against lockdown policies? Well, that will kill disproportionately black people, so you're for genocide of black people. Can't allow that in campus. See? Pondering politics. Does that ruminate? Smack that guy around again? I don't know if that's who that is or not. So if campuses all came together, if all these campuses came together and tomorrow and said, listen, we're not going to say, we're all about free speech, baby. If you want to call for genocide of Jewish people, that's not going to automatically get you kicked off campus. I'm okay with that. I'd say, okay, as long as it's evenly applied. They're going to let the KKK come give speeches? They won't even let, like, fucking Dave Rubin and Gavin McInnes and Ben Shapiro. People like that have been kept off college campuses. You think they're going to allow actual people calling for genocide? You think they'd let them say, well, it's all about the context. Let's hear what, Mr. David Duke here has. Let's hear him out. Let's hear him out. You think they would allow that? Then we come to Fareed Zakaria. So he falls in that group of people that I said, is he finally waking up, or is it just bullshit, cover your ass? Oh, it's directed against a group that I have an affinity for, so now I'm offended. So I've already answered that part of it, but the last thing I'll say is, have some fucking dignity. Fuck you, Fareed Zakaria. Fuck you, Bill Maher, and fuck you, every other lefty, that when you stand up and say one thing that's randomly reasonable because shit goes too far one time, without a mea culpa, without saying, by the way, I'm partially responsible because I criticize people like me, even though they don't know me, but people that were saying things like me, criticize them when they were calling this out years ago. How desperate are some of us right-wingers that we're willing to bow and grovel and celebrate anytime some mainstream lefty says anything that's remotely in the field of reasonableness? Fuck them. If Fareed Zakaria wants to vote against this shit and not vote for Democrats, fine. If Bill Maher wants to do it and not vote against Democrats, fine. If they think I'm going to kiss their ass and I'm going to stand up and say, wow, look what Bill Maher, look, Fareed Zakaria. No. Fuck you. We're here because of people like you, particularly those like them that had big platforms that downplayed this shit for years and years and years. And that still are going to vote for it. They'll still vote for it. I'm just so tired of it. I'm so tired of there's and I'm not saying it has to be me. I'm not saying that. There's tons of great people that are right-wingers or centrist or libertarian-minded or populist that have been calling out so much of this woke shit for years and years and years and years and years. Barely a peep gets mentioned oftentimes by people, and I understand why. You get fed up with it. You don't even want to think about it. This news cycle moves a million miles an hour. But then as soon as one prominent lefty says something, we're all supposed to stop and high-five them? No. Sorry. And I've talked about Bill Maher specifically before. Maher's at least a little smarter. He sees the writing on the wall. He sees that eventually he'll be the oppressor. So now he's like, whoa, time to pull the reins back before we get there. That's it. So this is a guy who said he would cheer for a recession to keep Donald Trump from winning. He wanted the poorest people in this country to suffer hugely just so he could have his preference of political pick. That's what he wanted. Now compare that to me, who still to this day is cheering for Joe Biden to do good. He doesn't, but I'd still be cheering for it. Why? Because the whole reason that I want to vote for someone is to make this country better. So if Biden wakes up tomorrow and says, you know what, here's a bunch of fucking corruption at the FBI, and here's what we're going to do about it, and we're going to massively cut back spending, and we're going to massively enforce the border, I'd say, great! I even praised Biden when he did things that I thought were worth praising, such as pulling out of Afghanistan. He did it in the shittiest possible way, but he was right to pull out. I praised him for that. Trump didn't do it, Biden did it. But I'm supposed to celebrate Bill Maher going, wow, this woke shit's getting too bad on campus now, when all he did was make fun of people like Dennis Prager that was on his show, telling them the direction this was going? Fuck him. Don't care. Yeah, old Millier, pretty strong there his first day in office. Dumping all government agencies but 9. Good stuff. We'll see how it ends, but... Now, let's talk about Gonzo Lira. Also went by the name of Coach Red Pill. I don't know shit about this guy. I'm going to be straightforward. Never watched one of his videos. Not a one. Here's the first question I have for anyone in the audience that knows Gonzo Lira, knows about him or anything like that. The first question I have, it's been very difficult for me to find the answer to this. Is he an American citizen? I believe he is. Maybe he has dual citizenship, but he was born in the United States. Has he renounced his citizenship? Was he actively living in Ukraine previous to the Russia invasion here in 2021? Because it matters for what I'm going to say, what my take is on this. So he's been living in Ukraine for some time. Any idea, Caligula, how long he's been living in Ukraine? My guess is this. He is an American citizen, but he's been living abroad for some time. I thought I read that maybe he was in South America for a while and then was in Ukraine for a while. That's my working assumption. Here's why it matters. Tucker Carlson does an interview with Gonzo Lira's father. One of the criticisms that I saw from people like Adam and Sitch is like, why are they talking about this now? Oh, because Republicans are going to come out and they're going to criticize Ukrainian funding. People like Tucker Carlson are making a push for that. What a fucking stupid take. What a dumb take. How often do you watch Tucker Carlson? One of the reasons he lost his show was, drum roll please, criticizing funding going to Ukraine back in 2022. So it's not like this is a new position of Tucker Carlson or other people on the right. Nor is it the first time that people on the right have talked about Gonzo Lira or have talked about Ukrainian government jailing opposition people, such as jailing people or outlawing the Orthodox Church or outlawing other political parties or jailing political leaders and stuff like that. Many of us have talked about that many times. So the idea, and we've certainly talked about stopping the funding to Ukraine. I've been talking about it since we started funding the Ukraine. I even criticized Trump for it. So the idea that like, oh, now there's this massive upswing in talking about Gonzo Lira, but it's only just sort of a propaganda move to try to encourage the stopping funding from Republicans. Sure, it is part, you could call it propaganda. I like to call it the truth, the good arguments, as to why the Ukrainian government is corrupt. We shouldn't be giving money because we shouldn't be giving money. We should be focused on this country first and foremost. And we can't even do the bare minimum like secure our border or, give housing and insurance to our veterans that have fought and been maimed for wars that we sent them to. We can't do that bare minimum. So this bullshit, faux hyper-patriotism, we could do all of it at once. Bullshit. Prove it. Let's take care of this country first. Do that for 4 or 5 years. Then we can talk about whether or not we should be world police again. I say no. Because we fuck shit up more than we help it. And I shouldn't even say we. Gonzalo. What'd I put? Gonzo. Ha. Good job, Rob. So just to handle that argument. Now, is it true that more people will be talking about this because Tucker talked about it? Yeah. Which is partly our fault. But it's also not a bad thing because normally what we're talking about is whatever the left's talking about. Whatever the New York Times wants to talk about. Or CNN. Or Anderson Cooper. Or Jake Tapper. Or the White House press secretary. That's normally what we're talking about. Because Republicans are terrible. And they allow the left to control the narrative. So it's not a bad thing that now that there's a populist journalist that has enough sway that when he speaks about an issue that people start to pay attention. I'm fine with it. I'm assuming when Tucker does another COVID episode, these same people will be pissing and moaning, oh, Tucker's talking about COVID. Now everyone wants to talk about COVID. When there's been people like me talking about COVID the entire fucking time, getting my channel struck on places like YouTube, community guideline strikes, to the point where my audience is tired of hearing it. Because I talk about it so much. But because they didn't talk about it and they hear Tucker talk about it, then hear other people, they're like, oh, everybody talk about it because Tucker talked about it. Whatever. What exactly did Gonzalo Lira do? Well, I've heard a laundry list of things. To hear it from Tucker's interview with his father, he criticized Ukraine and talked about where the fighting was going on. As many other journalists and pundits and commentators did. But because he was antithetical to Ukraine and was cheering for Russia, they said that was exposing Ukrainian troop movements. Then I've heard people say he was accused of sexual assault of his girlfriend, child, wife, I don't know. Some sexual crime. I didn't see that. I didn't see the proof of it, but I heard the allegation. So let's talk about it. Let's say that it's true. Let's say that Gonzalo Lira, what my understanding is a dual citizen at best. If not, maybe he's not considered a citizen of Ukraine. So he's a foreigner. Or he was a citizen of Ukraine and a citizen of the United States. Let's steelman the position. Let's say that he is hostile to the Ukrainian government and that he is subverting their laws and their ability to win by issuing propaganda against the government of Ukraine and for the government of Russia and exposing troop movements. Let's assume that's the case, right? We'll steelman the position. Then he gets charged. Then he gets locked up. Then he gets let go with bail. He tries to flee the country and they detain him again and now no one's heard from him since. Even if all of that's true, why not just boot him out of the country? If he's an American citizen, why not just say, okay, you can't be here now? That's what we do in this country. Let's assume he's not even a U.S. citizen. Let's say he's Chilean. Say, okay, go back to Chile. You're not allowed back in here. Then if he leaves and you catch him again, now you can have a conversation. He's trying to leave the country. That's the end of the problem, right? Okay, I guess he can't expose troop movements then. Now that's if their entire story is true. And he's not a U.S. citizen. Let's say that entire story is still true. And he's a U.S. citizen. Let's assume that. Which I'm not sure. It's difficult to find. He was born in the United States, which I think makes him a U.S. citizen unless he's renounced citizenship. So if he's a United States citizen, why in God's name would our government allow him to be detained? Right, Pauly Chaser says, all the money we've sent, exactly. If we're financing the war to the point where basically Zelensky's admitting, without the United States, we lose. Guaranteed loss. Okay, then the least we should be able to say is, you don't get to indefinitely detain our citizens. Okay? This is an even clearer case than something like the case of Brittany Griner. Because one of the arguments I saw people making on Twitter, in fact, you can go to my Twitter feed, you can see lefties were like, they should have executed him. Really? For having a YouTube channel and disagreeing. Execute, right? Oh, that lovable left. And make no mistake, that's what they would suggest of anyone that they thought was a significant threat to efforts that they were trying to achieve. If they thought I had enough pull on my channel to stop the funding of the Ukraine war, they'd cheer for my execution as well. Not all of them, but many of them. Many would cheer for my silencing, my censorship, to jail me, etc. What's it matter if I'm in the United States as opposed to Ukraine? One of the things they said was, well, when you're an American citizen and you're abroad, you have to follow the laws of that country. Really? I saw several people say that. Was that your take on Brittany Griner? Is that what you said? Oh, she's looking at 20 years for weed? Oh, well, that's Russia's laws. Is that what you said? Did you criticize releasing an arms dealer for Brittany Griner because you said, hey, wait a minute, she broke their laws. That's the way it goes. Is that what they said? You think that's what these lefties that are cheering for Lira locked up, you think that's what they said? Hey, you're in their country, their rules. You think? For a moment? And the difference is this. Russia's a hostile country. So you can actually see the difference. That it would be harder. You expect Russia to fuck with U.S. citizens. Why? Because Russia and the United States are screwing with each other. So you expect it. I'm not saying that makes it right. In fact, if you remember, a good friend of the channel, Aircraft Sparky, I did a debate with him about Brittany Griner. Anyone remember what my position was on Brittany Griner? Anyone? Doing good, Ninja. Does anyone remember that debate? My good friend Aircraft Sparky and I had like a 2-hour debate on Brittany Griner. What was my position? What side of the debate was I on? Could you guess if you didn't watch? What side I was on? I said bring her back. That's what I said. I might not agree with her, but she's not accused of a crime that I would be willing to say, okay, like murder or rape or some drug charge. Is it illegal there? Yeah. Is she dumb for violating that? Yeah. But let's get her home. She's an American. That was my take. So I don't have some ridiculous double standard here. Did we trade for someone that was bad? That's room for argument there, obviously. But the point is, with a hostile country like Russia, you expect them to turn the screws on an American citizen. Not the country that exists because our tax dollars are saving their ass. That country you would expect to say, we're going to bend over backwards to make sure that we're not detaining American citizens. Unless it's the most hostile of crimes. Rape or murder or something crazy like that. Ninja, you could ask a question. If I feel like answering, I will. Go for it, man. You could say Russia isn't hostile. Russia is hostile to the leadership of this country, and the leadership of this country has hostility towards Russia. You could say that we should be allies, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I know David Packman. Yeah, it's terrible. Now, all the people that are cheering, oh, he was. Let's do a little thought experiment here, right? The people that are cheering Gonzalo Lira being locked up in Ukraine right now, most of them, what would you say that they would be on the political left on average or right? What would be your guess? The people that are, you think they're more progressive or more conservative? What do you think? The people cheering for the jailing of Gonzalo Lira. The people like Dylan Burns. Progressive or conservative? Yeah, they're on the left. So let's do a little thought experiment here, right? Let's say that a streamer that is, has a bigger name for themselves, decides to head to Israel. Let's say Hasan Piker heads to Israel. And let's say Hasan is in Israel tomorrow and he's heavily criticizing the Israeli government. They're terrible, they're genocidal, blah, blah, blah. And let's say he starts to talk about they have troops here and here and here. And the Israeli government says, you're under arrest. And then they arrest him, they put him out in bail, and Hasan tries to flee, tries to leave the country, and they indefinitely detain him and no one could hear from him. You think the left's okay with that? They okay with that? They say, hey, should have followed their laws. Doesn't matter if he live streamed from, again, it comes back to my point. You might say, we don't want that shit here. You're out of the country. The dude, they arrested him, fine, great. Then they left him out in bail, and the reason they rearrested him was trying to flee the country, where he would no longer be able to stream where their media is. So if he's a security risk, you tell him, see you later. You could say Gonzalo was stupid for going to a country like Ukraine and then cheering against their leadership. That is, you could say it's brave or you could say it's stupid, but it's definitely playing with fire. My position, though, is we're told that Ukraine is this bastion of democracy and we're financing them. For example, if Dylan Burns crosses the border into Russia and starts live streaming from Russia, criticizing Putin and the government of Russia, would I be shocked if he gets arrested? No. Would I say we should get Dylan Burns back? Yes. But would I understand a hostile country to us saying, no, you can't have him back? Yeah, I get that that's what would happen. They'd say, we're at war. You're on the other side. You're financing the people we're at war with. So, tough shit. We don't accept. Unless you have something to negotiate with, we're not just going to give him back. Sorry. However, the situation changes when it's our ally. That's when it changes. These people that are saying, now the troop position's one thing, right? But you can tell it's more than that. There are people that are just literally making the argument, and many people that believe this. Because have we seen evidence of the troop position thing anyways? Is it just generic? Here's a map like Peter Zan does. Here's where the fighting is. Is that what it is? That's what they got him for? Or was he literally covertly going and filming? I don't know. Maybe he was. Or did he just happen to be in a city and saw troops walking down the street and pointing his camera and say, look at that, there's troops. All of those are different levels. But there are certainly people that think, because they're so pro-Ukrainian, that he deserves to be locked up just for speaking out against Ukraine in Ukraine. How would that be any different than those that protested Vietnam or Iraq in this country? Saying, fuck it, they should be locked up. The only difference is, that was politically on the side of the people that hate Gonzalo Lira. They're for this war, so criticizing it, fuck you, no. The wars they're against, they would be outraged if the same standard was put on them. The truth is, as I said from day one of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, neither Russia nor the Ukraine are good sides. They're not. There's messed up shit going on both sides. And the United States is partially responsible because they have intentionally been, what's the word I'm looking for? Antagonizing Russia for years. Would the United States accept if Russia had biolabs 20 miles off our border in Mexico that we knew had agents in them, biological agents that could be weaponized? Would the United States say, oh, never mind, no problem? Of course not. Would we be okay if Russia was pushing for military alliances basically designed to hamstring in the United States with neighboring countries like Canada or Mexico? No. The United States government would not be okay with that. And I was criticizing even Trump when I thought that he was provoking Russia too much, such as bombing Syria. And when I brought it up to people like Dylan Burns about the antagonism that having troops stationed in Syria and attacking Assad and how that would antagonize Russia, he said, that's good. Then when Russia invades, he says, this is bad. This is the worst thing in the world. Right. Now, does that mean that I think, oh, then Russia's the good guys? No! Not at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we shouldn't be involved. Here's another point to Dylan Burns. I'd love to talk to him about this. Now, I debated Dylan Burns about 2 years ago on the Ukraine situation. And he told me then, over 2 years ago, he told me, it's over. Russia's lost. Remember? I was making a point every night I talked about it to talk about the doublespeak that was coming out from all of the people advocating for sending indefinite amounts of money to Ukraine. Remember, I debated Bastiat, and I debated all these people on the left, and I was talking to Dylan Burns, debating him and all these people, and I said, the two sides of their mouth argument is this. On one hand, they're saying, because they know people are like, well, in Afghanistan, we just sent a bunch of money and weapons and shit like that, and then we left with our tail between our legs, and within 2 weeks, we basically just armed the people that we were told we needed to be there fighting. Now we gave them a huge military and a bunch of weapons and money and shit. So people were like, what's to say we're not doing that again? We're not sending over a bunch of weapons that are just going to go into the hands of Russia and Russian terrorists. What's to say that won't happen? And what was their answer? It's over. It's over. Russia's lost. Oh, it's all over now, but the crying. Russia can't win. They're done. Ukraine kicked their ass. It's only going to, the counteroffensive's coming. Ukraine's going to steamroll them. This is it, man. It's all over. Russia, they've already lost. That's what Dylan Burns said. Russia's already lost. 2 years ago, that's what he told me. They've already lost. Okay. And then, if they say that, you're like, oh, cool, then we don't have to send money anymore. And they say, no, please, send the money. We have to send the money. Oh, my God, if we don't send the money, please, if we don't send the money, Ukraine will lose. And then they'll take over all the European countries, the NATO countries in Europe, and then we'll be fighting them on the shores of California and New York. And they say, please keep sending the money. It's already over. Russia's lost. They have a chance. They're a paper bear. We overestimated how strong Russia was. Same bullshit. For 2 years we've been hearing. How could those things be simultaneously true? Either Ukraine is mightily struggling, which is why we have to keep sending them money, or Russia's getting their ass kicked, which means we could wind down how much money we're sending. We're supposed to believe that it's this perfect Goldilocks scenario where it's like, no, Russia doesn't have a chance, but simultaneously we have to send the exact amount of money we're sending, or else Russia will have a chance. Bullshit. So then, the next time I debated, I can bring this clip up if people want me to find it. The next time I debated, remember it was on Connor's panel, where it was like me versus 4. It was the British guy, I can't remember his name, and Dylan Burns, and Destiny, right? And I'm on there debating all of them. In the first half of it, we talked about Brexit and shit like that, which I look like an idiot because I thought Brexit hadn't been accomplished yet, which technically it hadn't, but nonetheless. And I bring up to Dylan Burns, I said, you said Russia already lost. That's what you said to me. That was like a year ago. You said it was already over. So here we are a year later. We're still sending all this money. Doesn't look like Russia's lost yet. What happened? Then he changes his position. He goes, oh, no. When I said Russia lost, what I meant was at this point, they'll never be able to take over like Kiev. But they'd still at this point probably hold on to certain areas, like in the Crimea. Well, that doesn't sound like Russia's already lost. To me, that doesn't sound like that. But fair enough. He's changed his position. In my mind, he says no, he's just clarifying. So let's give the benefit of the doubt. Now he's clarifying his position, which is Russia can't aggress. And then when I pushed him on it, I was like, well, what do you mean? Because I hear all these politicians in the United States saying, oh, we have to fight them over there so we don't fight them over here because they're going to come through Europe. He says, no. This was his exact words. At this point, it's already over for Russia. In that, the best they could hope to do is get to Moldova. That's what he said. But the idea that they could make it into Poland or something like that is nonsensical. Now go look at what Secretary Blinken said this week. What do you think they're saying now? Oh, we have to keep sending this money. If not, U.S. troops will have to be sent and, it'll end up U.S. people will be dying. Why? Why, Dylan Burns? All of those people on that panel that agreed with that statement, yep, Russia can't get into NATO countries. They won't be able to at this point. It's all over. Why aren't they out there on Twitter? Because I see them posting, and they're still posting about Ukraine. Why aren't they saying, look, the Biden administration's gaslighting you? Although we do think it's important to keep sending money to Ukraine to help them out, it's not that it's going to be that U.S. troops need to fight or they're going to be going into NATO countries. That's just not true. It's not possible. Why aren't they saying that? It's almost like, now this is going to blow your fucking mind. You ready? This is going to blow your mind. You ready for this? It's almost like they like the propaganda. That's what it seems like, huh? Well, we're just going to let the Biden administration lie. Or, here's the other possibility. They were full of shit when they were saying that Russia already lost. Take your pick. Please calm down. I love when people tell me to calm down. Why don't you people get fired up more? Calm down. Fuck off. This is therapeutic for me to come on and yell about this stuff. If you'd like to have a nice calm stream, by all means. I am fired up. I just know history. Pauly Chaser, would you like to call in and school me? Because clearly you know. Is your general position this? Russia is the good guys. It seems like your major bone of contention with me was when I said that there are hostilities between the United States and Russia. It seems like that was your major bone of contention. Now, when I clarified that what I'm saying is I'm not saying the people of the United States and the people of Russia. I'm saying the government of the United States stands at hostility with the government of Russia at this point. You said, no, that's not true. That was your argument. Okay, now you're saying Putin's an authoritarian dick. Right, that's what I said. I don't really like the government of Ukraine. I think that also the government of Russia is bad as well. That's what I said. Thank you so much, Lavin, for the sub. I really appreciate it. So you're hashing Peter Zan talking points? Is this what you're doing here? This is just about a buffer zone. Historically, the past 13 times that Russia has done this, what it's about is they have this land that's not very fertile that they need to be able to have these buffer zones. So it's like 4 or 5 areas that they need to have these buffer zones that they want to have to ensure that they have access to, they're afraid they'll get surrounded and they won't be able to have this land because, that's where the majority of their crops and things. So each excursion that Russia's had since the 40s, that's it. Oh, just from NATO? Right, I've heard all this shit. I don't understand how that's relevant to what I'm saying. I don't understand how that's at odds with anything I've been saying. So you explain to me, go ahead, you can call in. You can explain to me how your knowledge of history disproves what I've said. Go ahead, you can call in and you can tell me how it disproves what I've said. Go ahead. Clearly, you're a masterful knowledge of history here, and it'll be able to disprove the central thesis of what I've been saying. where you're telling me to calm down, but you're fired up because you have knowledge of history. And when I said that there are hostilities between the United States government and Russia, you said that's not true. So you're going to call in and you're going to explain how your knowledge of history shows that, right? You really wish you could, but you can't go on voice. Why can't you go on voice? Seems that you have time on your computer right now. Do you not have a speaker for your computer? I could set up a Google Voice number and you could call in with your phone, right? That's what you could do. I can already tell you what's gonna this what's gonna happen, right? This is anytime there's someone like you on the chat, this is what happens. One, you won't call in. Secondly, even if you did, this is what you'd do. You'd go, actually, I agree with you. I'm just saying that there's more context put in. Right. I could talk for 14 hours and still some smartass could go, there's a little more context historically that you could put on to be able to... Yeah, go fuck yourself. Feel free to do your historically accurate stream. If you can't tell me right now in the chat why your knowledge of history disproves what I've said here, then go fuck yourself. You got the attention you were seeking. You got it now. You got the stage. Have at her. We are having a conversation. You criticize the tone of my conversation. I've decided to increase the hostile tone of my conversation in response. Don't tell me not to be a dick. Again, you can have the tone you like when you have a channel and you have a show. Not calling in? Don't. Last chance. Would you like to say how your knowledge of history disproves anything that I've said here about Ukraine, Russia? Pauly Chaser, you can see them on the chat. Would you like to just tell me what it is? Or are you just going to whine about the tone that I'm speaking with? You're saying that the West and the USA provoked this war. Didn't I say that there was provocations from the United States? Didn't I say the attacks on Assad, the bases that we saw, the expansion of NATO? You remember when I was saying, like, can you imagine if Russia did that to the United States? Didn't I say that? So can you explain to me how the historical context disproves? Yeah, that's what I thought. Anyways, so with Gonzalo Lira, you could see that the people that, are cheering for him to be indefinitely detained because he was critical. Again, he was trying to leave the country. Right, I said it had to do with NATO and their expansion. Yep. I'm just going to repeat your talking points. This is exactly what I said they would do. I'll just agree with what you said, but there's history behind it. Great, gotcha. Thanks so much, Pauly. Appreciate the conversation. Unfortunately, I have this proclivity to focus on the people that are disagreeing with me. It's because I like debating a lot. But I really like the people. I so love the people that are disagreeing with me, but agreeing with me. But they can't call in. Nah, I'm not going to clarify anymore. You've had enough of my time, Pauly Chaser. Thanks so much. Put your big boy pants on and call in next time. What else do we have to talk about? Well, let's see. Let's see what I've been liking on Twitter. Oh, I know a story that I saw. My buddy Frank's asking me to comment on this Hunter Avalon story. So here's the thing. As much of a dick as I may be, I actually don't mind Pauly Chaser. We're arguing about politics. This is what I do. I like it. Maybe I'm too hostile. Whatever. It is what it is. I don't like talking about people's personal drama and stuff like that. For those that don't know, allegations that the left-wing streamer I've debated many times, Destiny, who is in a polyamorous relationship, married, that their marriage, they're going to get a divorce. I don't know if it's true or not. I already said my piece. I don't really care. Now there's this situation again. think it's a polyamorous situation with someone I don't like at all, Hunter Avalon. If you don't know the story, Hunter Avalon, I don't know, somehow gets involved with this girl who had an ex, but I think it was sort of an open relationship or something. And there was a lot of drama going on stream and stuff like that. And this resulted in a real world situation where the ex showed up with a firearm and ended up shooting the girl in the leg. And then ultimately, I don't know if he took his own life or if he was killed by police, but he's dead. The shooter is dead. And there's been this online drama about, all of this shit's basically streamed as it's occurring. I have no comment on it. Regardless, I have personal opinions. I'll talk in private to my wife and stuff like that. I'll just say in general, I think people stream and make people, get people involved in personal areas of their life, oftentimes in ways that I find to be massively a bad idea. But hey, we're all adults. If that's what you choose to do or that's what you choose to be into, fine, so be it. If it was me and I had a terrible situation like that occur, the last thing I would be doing is streaming it. But that doesn't mean that I would deserve bad things if I did that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm not going to be part of talking about it. I think it's absolutely horrific, regardless of what the reaction that the people involved have chosen to do as a reaction as far as telling other people in the way that they've told them or streamed or whatever. What I will stand behind is that dealing with someone that's trying to shoot you or your loved one has to be a horrific situation, and my heart goes out to it. That's all I have to say. So, I just don't give a shit. I know people have asked me. I've had 5 or 6 people ask me about it. I just don't give a shit. If you care, or if some other streamer's talking about it, do I think that makes them a bad person? No, I'm not saying that. I just don't give a shit. And here's something I will talk about, sort of peripherally surrounding that. So much of becoming a popular streamer and having like big viewership and stuff is intentionally wading into this personal drama. Now, I've dipped my toe. I've called people out on stream for shit that I thought was personally egregious. But very rarely, and usually it's because I'm talking directly to that person and it's sort of brought up in context. All but one time, I think that that's been the case. And even then, I'm not very comfortable about it. It is, there is a significant question. Is anyone else surprised that the majority, and I'm not just talking about the people I've been on panels with. I'm talking huge streamers. Not even necessarily just political streamers. But like people that get huge numbers on Twitch or that have huge YouTube channels. There are entire YouTube channels dedicated to the shitty behaviors of big YouTube personalities. And you have to ask yourself, is it that once you become a big personality, you become a dick? Or that the personality that makes you sort of an asshole or a dick is what it takes, those sort of traits help you become big? I think it's a combination of both, but predominantly the latter. That's what I think. And I understand it's difficult to sit here and talk about like politics every day. And it's probably difficult to sit there and talk about video games every day, or music every day, or movies every day. And when you sort of develop these parasocial relationships, I think it's easy to talk, talk about that stuff. So for me, it's like, to each their own. I like watching Judge Judy. I'm not saying I don't watch trashy stuff, but that's just, anytime someone asks me, 99% of the time my answer is going to be like, I feel bad for the people that are involved. Look, divorce is always shitty. I feel terrible for anyone going through a divorce. Thank you, Pauly Chaser, for the sub. I really appreciate it. Even after yelling at you. And certainly anyone getting shot at, I feel terrible. Is there more to it? Was there a reason? No, the fucking shooter's in the wrong. Does that mean that there couldn't have been bad decisions that led up to it? I don't know. I don't give a shit. That's all I have to say. I hope Hunter and his girlfriend or wife or whatever she is, I hope that they're okay. Whatever they decide to do going forward is a different conversation than the horrific situation that they were forced through. That's it. Now, on to, let's talk a little Trump DeSantis, shall we? I saw Steve Deese. I like Steve Deese a lot. He is, I think he's from Iowa, right? Radio show guy out of Iowa. I know him more for writing the movie Nefarious, which I got to interview the producers of that movie, who are good friends with my friend Carlos, which if you have not seen the movie Nefarious, it is a fantastic movie. Now, I'll admit to being biased because it was made by people that I like, that's pushing an ideology of Christianity that I like. And it also stars an actor in Sean Flannery that I like. He was from Boondock Saints. And it's the exact type of movie I like. I love like a thriller, like mystery. Like I love the movie Fallen. If you've ever seen it with Denzel Washington, I think that's a great movie. I like movies like Seven, like sort of procedural, like drama type thing. This movie's predominantly takes place with a person who is on death row, and it's his defense attorney talking to him, and he's claiming that he's a demon. So it's just the type of movie that I would like. But I think it's a very good movie. You should go watch it. Let's see if you like it or not. That's how I know Steve Deese. But Steve has been a very vocal DeSantis supporter, and he's very much criticized Trump. I think in ways that usually I agree with. Now, full disclosure, if I was voting today, I would probably vote for DeSantis over Trump, but I certainly would support either of them if they win the primary. And for me, there's a 3-person primary, and 3 that I would consider voting for. It's Vivek, Trump, DeSantis. That's it. And Steve Deese put in his, he said RFK as well. I would vote for RFK over Nikki Haley. But he puts it quite articulately in a tweet that he puts out today where he's like, he wanted a disruptor. And those were he says he doesn't trust, Vivek's an unknown. But Trump, DeSantis are the disruptors. So that's who he was going for. I totally agree with that. That's how I've said it. Like, you need someone to demolish before you build up. I think Ron DeSantis has a better chance of demolishing and building back up at the same time than Trump would. But I barely give a shit about the building back up. I care about who's going to successfully demolish. Corruption has been my issue. I've been talking about it for years. I've made no bones about I'm basically a single issue voter who's going to deal with that corruption the most. So that's where I stand. It was interesting, though, because Steve basically was talking about the problems of both Trump and DeSantis campaign. And it was, if you followed Steve Deese, it was, and I try to follow people that are both DeSantis and Trump supporters in this battle. I've been kind of exasperated by both sides, but it was unique in that it was the first time I've seen him not so optimistic about DeSantis' chances. And, I thought it was a really good Twitter thread where he sort of talked about the problems with both Trump and with DeSantis. With Trump, he outlines quite clearly, and there are still Trump people that I can't believe don't understand this. You do understand that Trump's going to be convicted before the election. Everybody gets that, right? Probably multiple times. Y'all get it, right? Like, it's coming. That's it. He has 0 shot of not being convicted. None. Once it goes to trial, that's it. It doesn't matter if the prosecutor stands up and goes, fuck it, we don't have to say anything. This is Donald Trump, right? Fuck him. The jury's going to be like, yep. That's what DC jury's going to do. Sure. Simple. Easy peasy. No doubt. And because of that, he's like, Trump's team hasn't articulated, what's your plan? Right? What are you going to do when you're convicted? Like, you're going to be trying to get the conviction stayed. You're going to, be spending all this money on legal fees and stuff like that. There's going to be a full court press to the American people. It's going to be a bullshit trial. The media is going to cover it like shit. They're going to just put out all the stuff that makes Trump look bad. It's going to be a full court press. All this money that Trump's team's going to go to his legal defense and stuff like that. What's the plan? I haven't heard one. They're basically just like, we're innocent, it's corrupt. True, and? What's the plan? It's fair criticism. DeSantis, on the other hand, he outlines his problem. I'm 80% online with him. But he's basically talking about perception, and he says, look, Steve Deese thinks the polls are bullshit. Which, again, this is a criticism of Trump people. They hate the polls when they show Trump down, but when Trump's up, they're like, the polls. Now, I think there's a nuanced argument to be like, yeah, you could you could bullshit a 10% poll, right? Like, let's say Trump's 5% ahead of Biden. And the poll comes out, that's the reality. Trump's 5 ahead of Biden. But the poll comes out that has Biden 2% ahead of Trump. You could finagle it like that, but if Trump's like 70 points ahead of Biden, and then the poll comes out with Biden on top, that'd be tough to do. And the polls are showing Trump like 40 points over DeSantis. So we'll see. They might be bullshit, but I doubt that he's that far ahead, but I think he's ahead in Iowa. And if he's ahead in Iowa, that's it. DeSantis' team has put all their eggs in the Iowa basket because they understand that it's going to be about perception with Trump, right? That there's a lot of people that are just going to be like, well, Trump's already has it in the bag. That's who I'm voting for. If DeSantis could get that early victory in Iowa, then he can start a ball rolling in New Hampshire, other places where he's going to be able to get these votes. But he basically saying that we're walking into this trap, that the Democrats have this all figured out. And I totally agree. I've been saying for a long time, the chances of either DeSantis or Trump winning are less than 5%. It's just the truth. I'm not going to stop fighting. I'm clearly going to push for Trump or DeSantis, whoever inevitably wins the primary, of course. And I'm not, once they lose, I'm not going to be like, well, that's it. We're all done. The truth, if you really want the really, really black pill truth, the black pill truth is we were probably screwed in 2017. It was probably impossible to come back from then. Once it was evident that the establishment Republicans were going to allow the FBI to be weaponized against Trump and Trump supporters, that was it. Once Trump was like, I'm going to trust Bill Barr, that's it. Probably everything's written in stone since then, to be honest. The 2020 election, the 2024, the 2028. That's probably the truth. But you always continue to work towards, there's always hope, right? And you continue to work towards that. You know, so there are people now saying, if we lose in 2024, that's it. They're going to entrench they'll probably end the filibuster, they'll put in all this climate change bullshit. They'll further, they'll control AI, they'll further manipulate algorithms, they'll have censorship online. And it'll make it impossible for a populist candidate to win going forward. And that's what people are saying. But there's still, if Trump or DeSantis lose in 2024, do you think all the people saying that come 2028 will go say it doesn't matter anyways, there's no chance? Of course not. They'll again be saying, this is it, we have to win. And they'll be right. They'll be right. So never give up. And I talk about this a lot. Like, there's things to be optimistic about. Right? One, here's something to be optimistic about. I also said Trump had almost no chance in 2016. I was wrong. So my dubious prediction record as far as Trump winning might be a reason that I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not seeing it. I think the difference in 2016, I was right about how corrupt the system was. But what I didn't anticipate was their hubris. They believed their own bullshit so much that Hillary had a 99% chance of winning that they took their foot off the proverbial corruption gas. And Trump slipped through. Same thing with Brexit. They did not make that mistake in 2020, and I do not see them making that mistake in 2024. But we'll see. Never underestimate their arrogance and stupidity, I guess. The other thing is, I think that real change will occur culturally before it occurs politically anyways. And I am starting to see people waking up culturally about how disastrous the authoritarian left is. And even if all of that fails, and we continue to go down this authoritarian destruction, the path that the country's on, you have a relationship with your God, or if not your God, yourself and your family. Those are the most important things. We'll all be dead in 100 years anyways, right? Who gives a shit? Live your life as a moral person, trying to improve yourself and the people around you. And though that's more important than did I advocate for the president really good or the governor really good, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, it's a good point, Plisol. Losing an election in the U.S. now means you go to prison. Why would any president moving forward allow another election? Well, it only means you go to prison if you're an outsider. If you're an insider, it won't happen. You really think that if Biden loses, he'll go to prison? You think Mitch McConnell would allow that? Please. Not a chance. But here's what I wanted to talk about now that we sort of moved on from Steve Z's. I'm tired of both Trump and DeSantis, if I'm honest. I thought, like, this week, I'm just getting tired of both of them. Granted, my threshold for Trump's bullshit's higher than my threshold for DeSantis's, because I know what to expect with Trump. And regardless of what any of you out there say, and listen, before I get shit, I criticized Trump before it was popular on the right. I called out Trump, his entire administration, for massive spending. I called him out for things like bombing Syria and how it was antagonizing Russia. I called him out for the disastrous COVID policies and pushing people like Dr. Fauci and criticizing states that weren't locked down enough. I called him out. I lost subscribers. I lost followers. I had people that had followed me for over a year saying, "You goddamn Democrat, you sold us out." Meanwhile, I was volunteering for Trump's campaign, making calls. Dozens of calls a day, traveling across the state of Pennsylvania, trying to get Trump to win. That's what I was doing. But still I was anti-Trump. I was calling him out because I saw how it was a disaster to do these things. And I wanted him to do well. That's why I was calling him out. And a lot of people weren't. A lot of people, commentators, I even had commentators reaching out to me in private. I would never disclose who they were. But commentators in private reaching out to me saying, "Rob, you're absolutely right to criticize Trump in the way you're doing for things like lockdowns, but I can't say it because I'd lose subscribers." Okay. Now, I see some of those people, big Trump critics now, criticizing Trump, big DeSantis people. I'm not even saying their criticisms are incorrect, but where were you when it mattered? Where were you? Now that it's okay, you could still maintain an audience on the right by saying, "Well, I'm a DeSantis man, not a Trump man." Now you found your bravery. Good job. And I can't even blame some of these people because I do this as a hobby. This isn't my career. If I knew that I came out and said, "Hey, Trump sucks, he sucked on COVID," that all of a sudden that would mean that my 2-year-old son wasn't eating dinner tomorrow, would I do it? Probably not. Now, I don't think anyone's in that situation where they're literally going to starve to death. But you see my point. When it's your job and you're making big bucks, you don't want to lose those big bucks. So now, that's one of the things, like, I feel like Rocky in Rocky 5, right? Where he whacks Tommy and the lawyer's like, "We're going to sue you." He goes, "For what?" That's how I feel. I got nothing to lose. I don't give a shit. What are they going to do? Take my channel? It'd suck, but it's a hobby. It's not my career. So it means that I have freedom to, I'd say, fuck you. I'd criticize you. But despite having criticized Trump, like, you can't take away what he did. It was the biggest political upset probably in the history of this country, at least the most high-profile one. Everything was stacked against Donald Trump. He was in a unique position, whereas an independent billionaire, where he was able to do what he did. And he was able to speak basically to average people, like the people that I care the most about. And I've been quite vocal about this. You won't hear me fuck with people that want to advocate for black people or gay people or Muslim people, whatever your group is, because I'm tribal too. And I would be a hypocrite. I don't focus on those types of things. I'm not focused on race. I'm not focused on religion. The group that I care about, that I advocate for, that inspired me to start a channel are rural Americans. That's the group. I grew up in rural Pennsylvania my whole life. I am tangentially a redneck. I am a redneck, right? But I'm a bad one. The people I respect the most in life are fucking blue-collar workers. You know what they were doing here this past month? Hunting. That's what they were doing. And I suck at all that stuff. I can't work on a car to save my life. I'm the worst shot you've ever seen. I'm a terrible hunter. I can't fix a roof. I'm not a handyman. I can't fix shit around the house. I'm terrible at all that stuff. But I love these people. I happen to be good at other stuff. I was a good debater. I'm good at talking to people. I think I'm entertaining. People have told me that. I'm a very social person. I grew up in this rural area that the economy is leaving people behind. of people that I think are the best people I've ever met, that have inspired me, that I think are just the greatest people. Predominantly white Christian people. Also black people. Also immigrants. Also gay people. They suffer too. The gay guys in my town also suffer when all the businesses leave. That's not my issue. My issue is not, I don't give a shit. I'm friends with those people too. That's who I have an affinity for. If you're white and you have an affinity because you think that white people are being screwed over and they have unique issues, you're right. If you're black and you think black people are being screwed over and they have unique issues, you're again right. All of these groups have unique issues. I don't see people really speaking up for rural America. That's where my heart was. That's who inspired me to stream. I had this unique position where I was in this area and then I left. I went off to debate that was the most elite of the elite. Almost everyone in the debate circuit was from the city, from wealthy families, that went to Ivy League schools, that went to private high schools. At the highest level of debate, most of the people were debating in high school. Debate in high school? I went to Red Bank Valley High School. You think we had a fucking debate team? You have no private school. Are you kidding me? Public school, baby. That's where I went. With a bunch of rednecks who were the greatest people I've ever met. So I got tired of them getting shit on. I got tired of them being made fun of for being flyover country. 10-toothed rubes, scared, a bunch of racists. They're the real problem with this country. Fuck you. And if you saw Tucker talk to Alex Jones the other day, you can see why I was so interested in that conversation, because Alex talks about just getting fed up with the city and moving into the countryside, and how now we're told that it's all those damn people in the countryside that are the problem. Those damn Trump supporters. And you have to understand, right? Like, there are people in my area of the world that never voted their entire life. My parents never voted their entire life till Donald Trump. Why? Why did some billionaire that seemingly has nothing in common with them, why were they inspired to go out there and vote for him? Because he was the first person that ran that believably talked about their situation. It doesn't, you might say, well, he was a charlatan. He didn't give a shit about them. Or what did he really do to help them? Or whatever. That's irrelevant to this. They felt he was talking to them. They felt he wasn't ashamed of them. That he actually said, you're great people. You're what makes this country great. That's all that it took to inspire these people. Finally, someone saying that they're not pieces of shit that's the real problem with this country. That's it. That was the low, low bar that was set. Started talking about issues they cared about, like, how about protecting our border? How about shit like that? How about making this country great again? When they say make America great again, you want to know what it meant to my people, to people in my community? Like when there used to be fucking jobs. That's when it was great. When you could go to the factory and a man could work and come home to a wife that had kids and that your income from that job was enough to have a comfortable life. Not when a man and a woman both have to go to job and can't afford to have kids and are indoctrinated that they don't want to have kids. And even in rural areas like this, all you hear now through the education system and everything, the kids are being indoctrinated over and over again about how shitty this country is and about how racist it is and about how bigoted it is. And they just lose hope more and more as another fucking factory leaves and another business shuts down and another small family store closes. That's what make America great meant to those people. Not, I want it to be white. They don't give a fuck. Most of them don't even give a shit. You might, if you're Christian, you might be upset with it. Most of them don't even give a shit about gay marriage and stuff. They just don't care. Whatever you think of Donald Trump and his failures, and I criticized him, and still do, he did something that was damn near unprecedented. He was a symbol that stood for something in 2016. And that's worth something to me. Is he the same guy today? No, I think he's fucking up all over the place. It's my honest opinion. But I know that he's a loudmouth. I know that he's a bull in a china shop. Oh, you hit me, I hit you. Oh, I think you might hit me, I hit you. And you want to criticize my voting record? I'll criticize your wife. I'll criticize your parents. Is it right? No, not always. But I understand it. And he gets leeway from me. And you might say that's bullshit. But I'm just being honest with you. DeSantis doesn't get that leeway for two reasons. He didn't do what Trump did in 2016. Although what he did in Florida is impressive. But it's nowhere near what I'm talking about. DeSantis probably doesn't win if Trump doesn't win in 2016. And it's not even that Trump endorsed DeSantis. That's not even the main reason. It's because Trump broke the seal on it's okay to talk about these issues. It's okay to want to make America great again. He sort of broke the seal on that. But the other reason that DeSantis doesn't get the benefit of the doubt is actually a positive for DeSantis. It's something I applauded for. He's not that brash a-hole. He will hit you because you deserve to be hit. And he will hit you in a way that you obviously deserve that's on point. Remember the media starts criticizing him for Don't Say Gay bill? He's able to eviscerate them. Fantastic. Great. Thought he did real good in that debate with Newsom. But he surrounded himself by people that aren't advising him the best. I think his campaign's been run poorly. Hasn't highlighted his strength. And then he did something this week that I just thought was so dumb. Right? So Trump's giving this speech. And so what I'm trying to say is I'm not impressed with either. Like, for me, the low point in this campaign for Trump was in his interview with Tucker Carlson, where he starts talking about, like, Gavin Newsom. He's like, oh, it's a great guy. Wait, what? What are you talking about? They're trying to throw you and your family in jail for the rest of your lives. Not just because they're afraid you're running, but as a symbol to any populace that would ever achieve power that would seek to stop the authoritarian stranglehold on the two-party system in this country. Yes, they're personally coming after you, but also as a symbol. That's what they're doing. And you're going to spend your time talking about, well, Newsom's actually not that bad of a guy. He doesn't get it. He does not get it. Does that inspire confidence in you that he's going to get in there and kick the fucking doors down at the FBI? Doesn't to me. DeSantis doesn't inspire me that much that he's going to do it either. We're going to get rid of some people at the FBI. That'll do it. The only one who's saying the right things is Vivek. He don't have a chance. And he's probably full of shit. But I'm still voting for DeSantis over Trump right now today because on that issue, I think there's a better chance that DeSantis could potentially, if we could get Trump people on board with him, if he's the nominee, could potentially win a general and then might actually enact some policies that would begin the ball rolling on ending this corruption. I think he might have a better chance of that than Trump. I don't think Trump's taking it seriously. I think Trump would appoint another Bill Barr-esque character that would blow smoke up his ass and go, yeah, we'll take care of it. Don't worry, Mr. President, blah, 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 blah. And then do nothing for 4 years as the FBI spies on him, investigates him, as prosecutors all around the country decide to charge him for this and that, as the media lies about him the whole time and calls him a Nazi and a racist, as riots spring up all over the place that people make excuses for and say it's the language of the unheard. That's what I think probably would happen if Trump won. But Trump gives this speech this week, and part of the speech he says, this general came up to me and he said, I've seen men fight and die in battle, but the bravest thing I ever saw was you, after that Grab 'em by the Pussy tape came out, then going and debating Hillary and just being like, yeah, just talking about it. And I saw the predictable online DeSantis influencers clutching their pearls. Oh my God, I'm so offended. By the way, when you do that, you sound like an asshole because then the stuff Trump says that's over the line or that's stupid, when you clutch your pearls at that too, most people then just roll their eyes. Like, for example, something Trump did over the weekend that was stupid was he's like, people have asked me what I thought about the fourth debate and blah, blah, blah. He just acted like a child. Oh, blah, 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 blah. And he could have said, like, look, I'm the front runner. I'm the nominee. I don't think anyone on the stage is going to approach my level. But there were some good things said. But he acts like a child about it. I thought it was stupid. Again, he gets more leeway than DeSantis. So anyways, Trump says this in a speech about the general, and saying this, and predictably, I get it. I don't really judge either DeSantis or Trump that much by their online groupies, sycophants, grifters, passionate fans, all of those groups. And you're not a piece of shit if you're passionately advocating for Trump or DeSantis. That's not what I'm saying. But you have to understand there's a big hodgepodge of people in there. So I'm not surprised people like that are DeSantis fans would latch on to this comment and say, oh my God, that's so offensive. It's offensive that Trump said that. Okay, whatever, lefty. Just like it was absurd. I thought it was so stupid when Trump people were like, I can't believe DeSantis said this about Trump. Oh, go fuck yourself. Of course they're going to talk shit in each other. It's a primary. That's out of bounds. Come on, dude. Trump talks shit on everyone. You're going to get upset and clutch your pearls? Come on. Suck it up. It'll be all right. It's almost done. The primary's almost done. But I was shocked. I really was. I thought more of DeSantis when he put a tweet out where he was basically echoing how offensive it was that Trump said this. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Come on, DeSantis. Dude, this is it? I know why he's doing it. I don't think he's really offended. I think he understands what was just said there. I totally do. I don't think he's a dumb man. I think DeSantis is a very smart guy. Why can't I find his damn... He's all pinned, or what's the deal here? Yep. Maybe it was either DeSantis deleted this or it wasn't his actual account. Well, regardless. I could be wrong if it wasn't DeSantis' account. Thank you, Pauly Chaser, for the gifted sub. I gotta stop searching. It sounds like my computer's gonna blow up here. But he was like, it's an insult. The fighting people have died. Let me explain what this comment was. Now, maybe Trump made this shit up. Maybe he did. That's a possibility. But have you ever heard this? For example, I've heard this almost verbatim as a bartender. I've heard this. Man, I fought in Iraq and I was in some fucking shit. Or Afghanistan it was. And I was in some shit. And I saw IEDs blow up shit. But I was never so scared as I was when I saw your wife bust through the door of that bar, dude. Did that soldier that just said that insult the people that died that he served with? No, you fucking idiots. It's a joke. That's what it is. Why do we have to pretend, oh, that's an insult to all soldiers? Trump saying, hey, this general said the bravest thing I ever saw you do is go debate Hillary on national TV after that whole grab him by the pussy thing. I got the joke. Okay, dude, it'd be really fucking scary, socially brave to go out there and be like, oh my God, everyone just heard me say this really offensive shit, and now I have to go on national TV. That's all it is. Again, maybe Trump made that story up, right? But if he didn't, and that general said that, he wasn't literally saying, oh my God, I would rather run into the gunfire and be shot and killed than do that. It's a joke. A joke. That's it. And if it's true, and I thought it was, maybe DeSantis deleted the tweet? I don't know. Just stupid. Listen, there are times where I've bitten my tongue. I can't believe how dumb. I don't even know if dumb's. It's not even just stupidity. It is stupidity, but it's also. I feel like there's a lot of people. Like, I make this mistake, I think, of just assuming that everyone, particularly on the right, not. Not everyone. Let me rephrase it. There are people that I look at that I share an affinity for the issues that they talk about. Like, for example, the corruption of our FBI, or the corruption of sending all this money to Ukraine, or the corruption at our border, or the corruption of censoring people online, or the corruption of the Biden administration and Hunter Biden and all this stuff. There are people I share an affinity for of those sorts of things, right? And I assume that they, when they talk about these things, believe them as much as I believe them. Because, after all, those things are true in my head, and I'm talking honestly, so I assume. But I don't know how to interpret it if you're saying, like, yes, the FBI is being weaponized to so much to the point that it's literally treating parents at school board meetings like domestic terrorists. It's literally working in tandem with social media to censor people that criticize things like COVID policy or Ukraine policy. How you could believe that? And then simultaneously go, but I'm not going to vote for DeSantis if he's the candidate. Because I'm a Trump man. What the fuck is wrong with you? Are you stupid? Or do you not believe the things you're saying? Anytime you want, Shy Doomer, what do you want to debate about? Or, if you're like, I'm not going to vote for Trump, but I believe these things. And I bite my tongue because I understand as little of a chance as I think that either Trump or DeSantis have of winning, they have no shot if the biggest supporters of one of them refuse to vote for the other. And it's both Trump supporters that won't vote for DeSantis and DeSantis that won't vote for Trump. And this is what I don't get. I actually, and again, I am going to vote for DeSantis, and I'm going to make a decision within 2 weeks, and it's probably going to be DeSantis, and I'm going to be on my channel trying to explain to Trump supporters why they should vote for DeSantis in the primary. That's 90% likely to happen, unless something changes. That's what I'm going to be doing. I think Trump will win, pretty handedly, but that doesn't mean I won't push for the person that I think has a reasonable chance of winning and is the better person. Right now, I think that's DeSantis. I think Trump's got a way better shot of winning the primary, but Waynesville, nice to hear from you. Yeah. Well, I'll make my case when I decide to in a couple weeks here. I've made the case, again, if I'm a single issue voter and it's about ending corruption and who could do the best to end corruption, I have to ask myself, what are the pros and cons of each of them? The con of Donald Trump is he was there for 4 years. What did he do to end corruption? Are we less corrupt today after a Trump presidency than we were before a Trump presidency? Arguably, we're more corrupt. It's out in the open, but nothing's been done about it. So now they're more brazen. Now the upside to Trump is maybe he's learned his lesson. Now he's pissed off. Now he's out for revenge. So he'll actually take care of the corruption. That's the upside. But then when you see these interviews, it's like, I don't know. I don't get that vibe. With DeSantis, I don't think that he would go to the lengths that I think's necessary. I don't think he's even suggested doing things like disbanding the FBI. The only person who's suggesting anything close to that's like Vivek, that's like, we're going to get rid of 70% of the federal workforce. Great. That's exactly the type of shit that needs done. Probably more. But DeSantis has actually been a great governor in actually going after and having real policies to attack things like this, albeit on a smaller scale than I would like. So he may have policies like that when he gets into office. The downside is, I don't think he has it in him to be as brash as Trump possibly could be, so he probably won't take the more radical actions that are necessary, and much like Trump, he seems to be surrounding himself with people that don't have that populist message at heart. So I think a lot of the people that are advocating for DeSantis are people that are like, we don't really want Trumpianism. We don't want populism. We want someone that does a couple things that looks like it, but ultimately won't rock the boat. I'm not inspired by Trump or DeSantis. I think they're better than like the choices I had in 2012, right? Well, other than Ron Paul. Ron Paul's the man. But you know what I mean? Like, better than McCain or Romney or Nikki Haley, Chris Christie. Better than all those people. But I don't think either of them are going to step up to the plate in the way that they should. Vivek, maybe, if he's being honest about the things that he's saying that he would do, but he doesn't have a chance. Oh, right. Nangishka makes a great point. If Trump won't even apologize for the COVID shit that happened under him, the massive spending, the lockdowns, the shit like that, if he won't even apologize for that, why are we to expect that he would be different when he gets in office? A very fair criticism. If he won't admit, I fucked up appointing Bill Barr, that's on me. Appointing John Bolton, that's on me. And here's the steps I've taken to make sure that won't happen again. Why wouldn't he do it again? If he hasn't said, yeah, I spent way too much. I signed off on way too much spending when I was there. And here's my plan to make sure it doesn't happen again. Where's my confidence? I agree with that as well, Kowtow. Fair criticism of DeSantis. It'll be much more difficult to have the Florida-type policies on a national level. There's going to be much more heat and much more pushback. Totally agree. So you can see there's a lot of negatives on either side. Again, I like both guys as candidates, but I don't know that they'll... What's your name on Twitter? You asked to debate, and I blocked you. If I blocked you, it's probably for a reason, so I'm just going to dispense with talking to you now. See ya. Yeah, I agree with that a lot of people come through the academic world and it's completely rotten. Of course. It was about trans. What did you want to debate about trans women? Give me the debate topic on trans women that you want to debate. I know it's a trap. Get me banned from Twitch. That's what the trans debate is. We'll do a Rumble exclusive. Rumble and Twitter. We'll debate on trans women. What's the topic? Yeah, I type slow, so I'm not going to criticize someone for... Right. Okay, one more chance, Shy Doomer. What is the topic? Like, trans women isn't a topic. Yes, there are people that call themselves trans women. I guess I win? What's the topic? What about trans women? I'm not going to send you a time to debate until you tell me what the topic is. If the next post you have isn't the topic of the debate that you're suggesting that you want to debate me on, I'm done talking to you tonight. It's that simple. I can see why I blocked you. Of course it's a distraction. Trans women are valid. How about we debate on how that's one of the dumbest fucking prompts for a debate that I've ever seen? Define valid. What does that mean, right? This water bottle is valid. They're veiled. Now they're veiled. I guess that in a sense is true. In a metaphorical sense, it is a veil. Anyways, moving on from Shy Doomer. You want a trans debate? Then go to Lefty Twitch. See ya. There was a couple other things that I was going to talk about. Did you see now that they're coming out? Let me find this. I thought this was amazing. Again, when I play this video, my computer's probably going to crash. Julie Kelly says, more on the deleted Secret Service text related to January 6th. So what happened was, you had all of these Secret Service agents on January 6th, and their official government devices that they're supposed to keep these devices in their messages, and they're texting each other on the day of January 6th. So we'd like to see what they were texting to see what was going on. And they're all deleted. And the reason they're deleted is, well, that those sorts of things happen. Even though they knew that there was going to be a committee and there were people requesting to see evidence from that day, it got deleted. It's the same that happened on Mueller's team, right? All of these people on Mueller's team, instead of preserving the records, they're like, oh, sorry, we deleted them all. Strzok and Page, the ones that were talking about an insurance policy to stop Donald Trump, just got deleted. Why is it that stuff's always getting deleted? Why is it that it's considered this huge, ridiculous crime that we need to prosecute the former president of the United States? Because allegedly he told someone to move boxes so they couldn't be found. But anytime the federal government itself wants to delete shit that we want to see, it's always just an accident. Always an accident. Oh, well, geez. An accident. Whoops, our bad. So here's one of the people, Julie Kelly says, more on the deleted Secret Service text related to January 6th. Kim Cheadle was a Secret Service honcho on January 6th, the Assistant Director of the Office of Protective Operations. She's tied to the Cheneys and Bidens. Joe Biden named her Director of the Secret Service last year. Here's what she said about the deleted text. Also, her transcribed interview with the January 6th committee has never been made public. It's unclear whether her interview is one of the several DHS, which houses Secret Service, is withholding from Congress. Hard to think, given her position on January 6th and her appearance to January 6th related emails, her texts aren't missing too. There's all sorts of testimony and evidence from the January 6th committee that was behind closed doors that they now claim is lost. And a lot of the Secret Service text messages, now it's just lost. Let's hear what this woman, who was at the Secret Service, let's hear what she has to say. Ready? About the deleted January 6th stuff. Secret Service messages. Ready?
She would know. The 28-year veteran was on the team that evacuated Vice President Dick Cheney on 9/11, and she served on then Vice President Biden's protective detail. He named her director in mid-2022. Amid a swirl of controversy over the agency deleting nearly all of its text messages from January 6th. The agency says that was due to a data migration.
System migrations happen, but I think for a lot of Americans, it just doesn't pass the smell test, given the timing and the volume of messages deleted.
Well, it's unfortunate that would be the assumption that people would make. Our integrity is everything, and there was nothing nefarious attached to that.
Their integrity has... She would know...
Oh, there you have it. That's unfortunate, that this agency that's literally treating Catholics and parents at school board meetings and anyone connected to Donald Trump on January 6th like domestic terrorists. It's unfortunate that you would think that it's not just a big whoopsie that they happen to delete almost every Secret Service member's text. That's unfortunate that people would come to that conclusion. Yeah, it is unfortunate that you're so untrustworthy that that's the default conclusion people have. Why is it every time? Every time. FBI, oh, sorry, our stuff got deleted. Mueller's team, oh, sorry, our stuff got deleted. January 6th committee, oh, sorry, our stuff got deleted. Secret Service, oh, sorry, our stuff got deleted. Just, right? Where will the transparency people, right, that were yelling, how dare you try to interview Hunter Biden behind closed doors? The American people have the right to see what's being said. Where are they at? Strange, huh? Hillary's team, smash the devices with hammers and shit, no problem. Delete subpoenaed evidence, no problem. So it's all good in the hood. Thank you so much, Devic, for the following. Trump's team allegedly moved boxes. Send in the fucking raid. Mar-a-Lago, here we come. And I don't even have to explain to my audience why it's important to see what was being said by these Secret Service agents on January 6th, do I? Oh boy, though, if you liked a tweet that Donald Trump said on January 6th, it's your ass. They're subpoenaing that. Let's see what these people were liking and retweeting. Millions of Americans. But us? No, we don't keep our files. Sorry, you don't get to see them. I'll finish up with this. The Hunter Biden stuff I talked about the other day, and I said I predicted accurately what people would say, that they were just going to be they would ignore it, right? And then they would say it's not a big deal. It doesn't prove anything about Joe Biden. It does. It shows the corruption. Jonathan Turley had an excellent article today that said there is zero case for not supporting an impeachment inquiry. He's not saying impeachment, but an inquiry. And the fact that no Democrat will go along with it shows how corrupt they are. Bunch of shady connection. We know for a fact that Hunter Biden committed crimes with hostile foreign groups. We know that he was selling his dad as the brand. We know that some of the actions his dad took directly helped those hostile foreign agents, like the firing of the prosecutor Victor Shokin, helped Burisma. And we know that Joe Biden's defense is an absolute lie. I knew nothing about the business, never got any money from the business, never talked about it. It's a lie. So why wouldn't there be reason to say, yep, we need to look into this? Because Democrats don't give a shit. They don't care. They're protecting their own. So if you've been following this, remember, I went through this, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing again. But Weiss, the guy that the whistleblower said was basically hamstringing the investigation into Hunter Biden, tried to give Hunter Biden a sweetheart deal where for pleading guilty to, I think, just the gun charge, but it might have been a small tax charge as well, the slate would have been wiped clean. He wouldn't have had to plead guilty to any of these other tax charges, FARA charges, etc. That was the plea deal that he offered. This was, when was the plea deal? I don't have the dates in front of me. I'll look into the specifics, but this was like early spring, right? Because two whistleblowers, Ziegler and Shapley from the IRS, spoke up, and this judge who read this was like, wait a minute, what is with this immunity deal? And asked a bunch of questions about it, which forced the deal to fall apart. Now we have like 6 months later, Weiss all of a sudden brings all of these super specific charges on taxes. Super specific. Like, to the detail, like he said this in his book. He spent X dollars on hookers. He did this, he did that. Like with receipts. And it was so funny to see resident bootlicker that comes onto the channel a lot, Pisco, his comment on this was like, geez, Weiss is really going to have to answer for why the discrepancy from the sweetheart plea deal he tried to give 6 months ago to these charges today. And of course, Pisco's like, maybe he's overcharging, which is now going to be the narrative. They're going to say, hey, Weiss, if you're listening, you ready? You're going to get thrown under the bus, dude. You ready for that? You might as well just come fucking clean and talk about how you were pressured, because they're going to throw your ass under the bus. That's what's going to happen. The Democrat narrative, they're going to attack Weiss because they're going to say he's overcharging. That's what's going on. Hunter Biden didn't do any of this shit. It's an overcharge. And even if he did it, so what? People do this stuff all the time. The same people that tell you, no one is above the law. We must go after Donald Trump. Hunter Biden, though. That's what they'll tell you. This shit happens all the time. It's ridiculous. No one's above the law, though. You ready for that? So I said, yeah, you know what happened, Pisco? He just found all this evidence in the past 6 months. That must be what happened. It just so happens that the exact same shit that the whistleblowers were saying, like, dude, all this evidence is out there to prove that these felony tax charges and other charges, even in the limited shit we were allowed to look at, it was all there. And they were basically, their hands were tied. They weren't allowed to look at anything connected to Joe Biden. People like Leslie Wolf were tipping off, or were telling them they couldn't raid certain houses. There were people that were tipping off Hunter Biden that subpoenas were about to be served. Then it just so happens, those are the types of charges that Weiss was able to bring just on the tax shit. So why didn't he see it when he offered this plea deal originally? Because that's what, now you have to understand, the bootlickers, that's what they got to square that circle. Okay, how do we argue it wasn't corrupt, that Weiss originally tried to wash all of this under the table, and then it only took 6 months for all of these very specific charges to come up? How are we going to make that argument? Well, there's only two ways you could make the argument that I could see right now. One, that Weiss was totally in the dark when he offered the plea deal. He didn't know that there was evidence that these charges that he's outlining now exist. He just didn't know. He didn't know. And then once the plea deal fell through, he's like, I guess I'll do some research and let's, oh my God, look at all these crimes. And it took him 6 months, open and shut, let's do it. That's bullshit. Particularly because we had the whistleblowers speaking about this shit beforehand. Or the argument will be, all of these current charges are overcharged. It's all bullshit now. The plea deal was the right thing. Hunter really didn't do anything, or it's normal to let people get away with this. Now, what I think's funny is there's two things happening simultaneously, right? You have these investigations into the Bidens, then you have the charges, the litany of them against Trump. Now, just today, we see with the charges against Trump that there was a near unprecedented thing that occurred from Jack Smith, who's investigating Trump for the January 6th insurrection type shit. Normally, he would have to go to court to argue whether or not the president, in this case, can be charged because he was formerly president of these crimes. But instead of going to an appellate court, he went straight to the Supreme Court. And the reason is because he wants the trial to start in March. He wants to try and convict Trump before the election. Now, any other thing that you heard, right, when it comes to cases being brought around election time, they always say, oh, we should wait. We don't want to interfere with the election. We don't want to interfere with it. But this time they seem to be in a big hurry. Now, while you're seeing them as fast as possible, as soon as the primary is over, say, okay, now let's get the trial going for Trump. When do you think, because Pisco says, we'll need to hear from David Weiss. When do you think we'll hear from David Weiss, special prosecutor looking into the Biden? When do you think we'll actually, because right now when Christopher Wray or Weiss or anyone else gets pulled in front of Congress to answer for these discrepancies, they say it's an ongoing investigation, we can't talk about it. Weiss will have to talk to you about it when the investigation ends. When do you think it'll wrap up? You think they're calling for it like, hey, we got to wrap this up before the election. We got to see what's going on, right? Is Joe Biden connected? Do you think that's what there's... Oh, it will conveniently. There won't be any hurry for those charges. No hurry at all. 2025, 2026. But don't worry, because after the election, whatever the charges are anyways, if there's anything serious, Joe Biden will just pardon his son. And himself if necessary. Don't worry about it. You see? You see how convenient it is? And of course, the left's take, if you go to Twitter and you see what their take is on all of this, it's like, oh, here's Rob, here we go, Rob's narrative. If they don't charge Hunter, it's because of corruption. And if they do charge Hunter, it's because of corruption. Do you ever wonder why they never once sit back and say, holy shit, all this stuff Rob says, almost every fucking time when it comes to corruption, 100% proven true. These are the same fuckheads when I was out there saying, Russia collusion, this is bullshit. The FBI is illegally spying on Trump. They're the same people that were like, that's ridiculous. How dare you? And now they're like, okay, it happened. Who cares? It was a long time ago. Who cares? I think I would look at this and I would say, yeah, I would look at the past two cases of relevance. Like, I'd look at the Jamal Bowman thing and I'd say, holy shit, this looks really bad. Oh, well, let's see what investigators find. And then investigators are like, okay, just a slap on the wrist. Then the tape gets released, and it's like, quite clearly, Bowman lied. He lied to law enforcement. Why isn't he charged with lying to law enforcement? Now, if I was someone that was routinely arguing that there's not a double standard, I think that's something, if I was honest, I'd say, fuck. Okay, yeah, that's pretty bad they didn't charge him with lying. He clearly lied. He clearly wasn't trying to leave that door. And law enforcement let him get away with it. So yeah, maybe that is an example of a slight double standard. If I was an honest person, I'd admit that. I know they're not honest people. They're not going to admit it. And then when I looked at this Weiss thing, I'd say, wow, that looks really bad. Try to give him this sweetheart deal, and then it only takes him 6 months to be like, oh yeah, a bunch of these tax charges. And again, there's great article. Margot Cleveland had an article just this week. Jonathan Turley about the connections to Joe Biden. These charges, I told people when they were like, charges coming against Hunter Biden today, before they announced what the charges were, I said, I'll bet they're not FARA charges. I have been saying from the get-go, that they will continually, as they get caught with their hand in the cookie jar, They'll charge as limited as possible. But the one thing that they want to stop from charging is these FARA violations. Because if you charge Hunter Biden, which he quite obviously was operating as a foreign lobbyist, if you charge him for that, which he did illegally, then the American people go, who was he lobbying to? Who was he on the phone to every day? That's right, his father. They bragged about it. Well, what's Joe say about it all? Oh, he blatantly lied. That's what Joe says. And even if it doesn't result in criminal charges of Joe Biden, the American people will make up their mind, yeah, that looks really fucking bad. Today we had, and I'm quoting, a huge cyber attack from China in the United States. Why didn't Joe tell the smartest man he knows, Hunter Biden, can you call your business associate, the, and I'm quoting now, spy chief of China, and ask him to stop? Could you do that? Does anyone for a second think that if Russia attacked us and Don Jr. was working with the spy chief of Russia, that when Trump was president, that there wouldn't have been a fucking huge outrage that Trump sold the country down the river? But when it's Joe in China, no big deal whatsoever. And Murgatroyd says, yeah, when the statute of limitations ran out, right, on the most important charge, which was the Burisma charge. And that's most important because those Burisma charges, here's what we know about Burisma. We know that Joe Biden and even the State Department knew that Hunter Biden was working for someone that the State Department had tagged as a corrupt foreign pro-Russian oligarch. And that Hunter wasn't qualified but was getting huge amounts of money from it. And we know that that company was telling Hunter to reach out to his resources in the United States to get cases dropped of them. And we know that Joe Biden personally was the one who came up with the idea for a quid pro quo to force the firing of this prosecutor. And we know that the end result of forcing the firing of the Ukrainian prosecutor was that the charges were eventually dropped against Burisma. They got exactly what they wanted. We know all of that. And it just so happens that those are the charges that the statute of limitations ran out on. Just so happens. Isn't that convenient? Nothing to see here. Joe Biden's defense is, I never talked to anyone. I didn't know anything about it. That's a lie. We could see it. What's up, Econoboy? But can't ask questions. Now, if Trump, they needed to see Trump's tax returns because if he ever had a deal in Russia, oh boy. Remember Trump Tower in Russia? They charged Papadopoulos with that for not having the right dates. They charged Michael Cohen. Oh my God, Trump was trying to have a tower in Russia, and oh my God, he's pro-Russian and blah, 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 blah. But nothing to say about Biden and China. Remember when one of the first things that Biden did was come in and end the task force from the United States looking to see whether or not China created the virus in the lab, in the Wuhan lab? Remember that? Oh boy. Those were good times, weren't they? You know, like the most important thing that's happened in this country in the past decade, where they literally fucking locked people down because of this virus, and maybe China, and vis-a-vis the United States and Anthony Fauci, and, yeah, created this shit. Because let's not forget, Fauci funded that lab, over $1 million. Now, nothing to see here. But Russia disinformation, holy shit, in 2016 they had $50,000 worth of ads on Facebook and Pokemon Go. That's a fucking act of war. We gotta get to the bottom of that shit. It's a fucking joke. It's a joke. They don't give a shit. They're lying right to your face. And I'm like, I used to have the time, which I don't have the time anymore because I'm so busy, but I see these people that like make little chirps at me if I retweet, so, oh, Rob's living on a fantasy, blah, 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 blah. Fuck them. I'm not even responding anymore, even if I had the time. They're clearly bad faith pieces of shit. I'm not going to listen to the people that told me about Russiagate for 4 fucking years droning on it. One guy said today, oh, so we're supposed to, when I said, why doesn't Joe call his son Hunter and have him call the spy chief of China to stop cyber attacks in the United States? So this guy says, "Oh, here's what Rob's saying. It doesn't make sense. Rob's saying that Joe Biden's in league with China, but then why would China be attacking us? Blah, 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 blah. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense." Right? Said the same people that told us that Trump had back channels with Putin since The Apprentice was on air, but chose to go on national TV and tell him to hack Hillary's server. Those people. Now they want to talk. Right, first off, I didn't say that Joe Biden is in league with China. I didn't say that. I said his son was, so why doesn't he have his son called the spy chief of China? Right? I think that's kind of a big deal. Secondly, even to the degree that Joe Biden could be under the thumb of China, why would that mean that they all of a sudden wouldn't do a cyber attack on the United States? It's not as if they had an asset in Joe Biden that would mean, oh, well, then now they're just going to be in a great relationship with the United States and we're going to have a great business transaction stuff. Of course not, you fucking dipshit. It means they'll do shit that they knew they could get away with. Oh, there's my wife. She does chirp at me all the time. She's worth arguing with. And again, I go back, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm an idiot. That could be it, and my wife will tell you I am. Right? Maybe that's it. But I see things that occur, and to me, they're seminal moments, even if other people don't see it that way. I think there are things that are so blatant that occur sometimes that you can see by people's reaction that it tells you everything you need to know about them. For example, if your take on October 7th, thank you so much, Murgatroyd. I really appreciate it. I really do. If your take on October 7th was, you hear people saying women were raped at a concert, and then their bodies drugged throughout the street, children were murdered. If you hear that and you say, I don't care, good, it doesn't matter if you come back 5 days later and say, actually, I don't believe that occurred. You have told us all who you really are. When you thought that it was true, you said good. I'm not even saying that most people did that, but those that did that, fuck them. That's it. I don't want to have a discussion with them next week about well, we need to, using the correct pronouns for people is actually the moral thing to do. But fuck you. You're a monster. You're a piece of shit. That doesn't mean the huge swath of people that said, I'm not so sure that this happened. I think things are being exaggerated. If it did happen, it's disgusting. But Israel has still done some really shitty things. That's all defensible. I'm not criticizing those people morally. I'm not at all. Those are all inbound discussion. But if you said, I think that this occurred and I don't care, I'm happy, fuck you. Thank you. Yes. My wife keeps me from being right all the time. She's very good at it. If you want to argue what actions mean about laws and things like that, with obstruction of justice and cases and stuff like that, like me and Pisco did, and then you see the Jamal Bowman thing, and you're like, nah, he pulled it's equally likely. In fact, he said it was more likely he pulled the alarm to get out the door than he did to cause a distraction. Already 98% you're full of shit. But I withheld some. 2% okay. Once that video comes out, once you could see the video of Jamal Bowman not even attempting to go out the door, and you're unwilling to admit, yeah, okay. That's bullshit. Fuck you. I have nothing left to discuss with you. Because if you're unwilling to admit with that overwhelming evidence that is indisputable right in front of your eyes, if you're unwilling to admit that situation, why would I bother to have a 4-hour conversation with you about Joe Biden's quid pro quo forcing the firing of a prosecutor that the company his son was paying wanted it done? What's the point? It is clear that you are such a partisan that you will make up any lie that you can. So even if you would happen to be right in the other situation, you have exhibited that you are bad faith. The Jamal Bowman, and the reason that this was such a litmus test was, remember, many of the people that are being charged on January 6th didn't even go in the building. And the reason that we're told that they were insurrectionists, right? When you say like, well, what about May 30th, 2020, when a bunch of left-wingers tried to break into the White House to remove Donald Trump? And unlike January 6th, they used lethal weapons like Molotov cocktails and they burnt down a guard station. And why wasn't there a massive reaction against how that was an insurrection? Instead, the left made fun of Trump for having to be moved to a bunker. Why didn't they say he had PTSD like AOC? What was the difference? Why wasn't that treated so harshly? And one of the things they'll always say is, what process was being stopped? What democracy was being stopped? What were they voting on that there? See, there wasn't a vote that night, so it doesn't matter. They weren't trying to stop or delay a proceeding. Okay, well that's what Jamal Bowman was doing. There was a proceeding going on that Democrats were trying to delay or stop, and then he pulled a fire alarm. And the only two possible explanations were he pulled the fire alarm to aggress the building, to get out those doors, or he pulled the fire alarm to issue a delay. Which, according to people that were there, it's difficult because we don't have a fucking media that gives a shit, but according to people that were there, I saw Marjorie Taylor Greene and someone else that was there, said that they evacuated people and they had to come in one by one, and so it did cause a temporary delay in the vote. But they charged him with the misdemeanor of you can't pull a fire alarm when you're not. So he got charged with what the hoodlum kid would be charged with for pulling a fire alarm at school. Not with the felony of pulling the fire alarm to delay an official proceeding. Or as the left calls it, insurrection. That's how I knew he wouldn't be charged with that. Why? Because they need to keep the phony fucking baloney story about so many of these nonviolent January 6 people. Now, even the people that engaged in violence on January 6th, does it preclude that maybe it was a setup? I think it was a setup, but no, it doesn't preclude that. Does it preclude that maybe some of them were self-defense because they were having tear gas hitting them? No, I'm not saying that. But that's different. There is a case to be made, despite all of that stuff, of people that engaged in actual violence that day that deserve to be charged. That's fucking different. That's a different group of people. But we're not talking about them. We're talking about why years later are they still going after people like grandmas that didn't even go in the building. Well, they knew. They all knew they were there to stop the peaceful transition of power. They all knew that that's what it was about. So it's an insurrection. They tried to delay an official proceeding. That's what the law says. That's what makes it an insurrection. And they know it's fucking nonsense. They know that it's being overcharged. They know that they're targeting people because they don't like them politically. They know that. And so, when they overreach and they make this law overreach to go after those people, you're like, okay, what happens when someone on the left does that? When they intentionally cause a distraction to delay an official proceeding? Do you have the same strength of character? Do you have the same argument saying, yes, they too should be charged? Of course you don't. Of course you don't. And of course the Capitol Police don't. And the DOJ does it. And the FBI does it. Of fucking course they don't. And the Secret Service. How did I know that? How did I know that Jamal Bowman wouldn't be charged with that? I must be a genius. And the entire argument I've had with these people is the fucking double standard. That's what we're talking about. The double standard. People connected to Trump, people that support Trump, people that vote for Trump, they're treated one way. People that defend the establishment, connected to the establishment, they're treated another way. Over and over. Every single incident. Over and over and over and over and over. Not one of these fuckers that I argue with. Not one of them. After that video was released of Bowman said, holy shit, that's terrible. Not one of them. How can that be? And remember, in case you've forgotten, this is their argument. You ready? This is their argument. That Jamal Bowman in this video that you're about to see pulled a fire alarm to go out the door. That's their argument. Ready? Pulls down the signs. Never touches the door handle. Pulls the alarm. Walks away. That's the fucking hill that they're down. Let's see that again. Again, remember, before this video came out, Jamal Bowman's story was what he told police, which is a crime to lie to police, right? To lie to investigators. That's why Papadopoulos got charged. That's why Flynn got charged, right? Jamal Bowman said, I was in a hurry. I wanted to get out this door. I tried to get out the door. It was locked. Then I thought I had to pull the alarm to unlock the door. That was his argument. That's Bowman's argument. That's what the left was defending. Let's see it again. Yep, that looks like a guy was trying to get out the door. Huh. Now that video shows that the entire excuse was bullshit, that he lied to police, and that the only possible explanation at that point was he pulled the alarm to cause a delay. I would say the chances are probably 40 to 50% that he fucking texted someone that he was going to do it. I believe he took the sign so that he could later claim, well, he didn't see what the sign specifically said, so he pulled the fire alarm on because the sign specifically says hold the door handle in. So if that sign's up, right, and someone says, but why did you pull the alarm on the wall? The sign blatantly says hold the handle in. He'd say, I didn't see it. And he wasn't thinking that there'd be a fucking camera there. Chris, you're absolutely right, Chris Dyer. As I've had Destiny read out loud for a fucking hour to his channel, that's exactly what Mike Flynn said in the FBI's 302. I'm not sure that conversation could have happened. He got charged with that as a lie. That's right. If he was trying to get out, he would have pulled the alarm and then pushed the door. And he would have, if that was the case, even if he did that, when he ran into a law enforcement person, he'd say, I'm so sorry, there's not a fire. I pulled the alarm because I was trying to get out the door. I didn't know that fucking it would cause this big mess. I didn't know that. That's what you would say. Because, you know, bad shit could happen when people think that they're fleeing a fire. It can happen. Someone could have theoretically been hurt trying to hurry up and escape. Now, you're not supposed to do it. I'm not saying the chances are high of that. But certainly, given the facts, particularly in the world of the Democrats that think that violent insurrectionist MAGA people might attack at any moment, hearing an alarm in the Capitol if you're in there working could be something that would frighten you and cause you to harm yourself trying to get out or something like that. But Bowman walked right by police and shit and didn't say a word. Now what you hear, and I see this over and over from people on the left when I bring this up on Twitter, they're like, why the fuck no one cares about this? Why the fuck do you care? Exactly. And that they're actually right, but proving my point. That's the point. They might as well say this, who the fuck cares that the FBI illegally spied on Trump? Who cares? It's over with. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares that they censored the Hunter Biden laptop story? Who cares that 52 former intel officials said that it was disinformation? Who cares that the FBI and CISA and other agencies were working with social media to censor conservative? Who cares? It's over with. Who cares? Who cares? Right, you fucking douchebags. Right. Tell you you're a conspiracy theorist, you're wrong, even when you're blatantly right. And then when you're proven right, they say, who gives a shit? It was a long time ago. Who cares? You fucking people care. You want to know how I care? No, you care because you're all for locking up the non-violent people on January 6th because they delayed an official's proceeding and tried to steal our democracy. But not when it's a Democratic official. Then it's who cares? Who cares? No big deal. Pulled a fire alarm. No big deal. Who cares? A bunch of people used Molotov cocktails, burnt down a guard station, tried to break into the White House to remove Donald Trump. Who cares? Who cares about it? Who gives a shit? That's all. That's what they're left with. Oh, who cares about it? You're the only person that cares about this. Right, maybe that's a fucking problem. Jamal Bowman should be looking at 7 years in prison right now, today. Held without bail. Every one of his devices should have been subpoenaed to make sure that he didn't communicate with other people to set up this insurrection. And the fact that no fucking Republican has the nerve to stand up and say that is why we lose over and over and over and over again. Yeah, no one's above the law. Right. That's what they tell you. Except Bowman. Hunter, Joe, AOC, Elon. Mitch McConnell doesn't care. Kevin McCarthy doesn't care. Mike Johnson doesn't care. Paul Ryan doesn't care. Mitt Romney doesn't care. They're all on the same team. Trump's not on that team. Throw the book at him. By the way, here's another thing. Seeing as how we have unprecedented situation where we have charges against trials coming up. 4 different cases, 92 different charges against the former president and the frontrunner for the opposition. Happens to be the same guy. Don't you think it'd be outrageous, even if you think that some of these charges are legitimate? Let's speak to a Democrat right now to be listening. You're like, I think the Mar-a-Lago case, I think he's guilty. Even if that's true, don't you think if any of the other cases were bullshit, that's a big deal? Don't you think that we broke the ice, not just on prosecuting against a slam dunk case against Trump, which there is no slam dunk case against Trump, but even if you believe there was, what about the Stormy Daniels case? What about this case in New York right now? Well, you see, he overvalued his properties, which defrauded the bank that he loaned from. The bank says, actually, we used our own valuation of the properties, and we made a considerable amount of money, so we weren't defrauded at all. Oh, well, court case, bring in Trump. They don't give a fuck. They don't care. He's guilty, he's a bad dude, who cares? If he's guilty of one, then bring him in on everything, even if it's bullshit. They don't give a fuck. You hear Pisco people say when you're like Paul Gambetta deleted subpoenaed evidence. That's open and fucking shut. That's open and shut case. They gave him immunity and decided not to charge him. And he'll say things like this. Well, you see, the FBI and the DOJ hesitates to bring charges against people unless they're 100% sure that they could win. That's the way prosecutors are. But if Trump would happen to beat one of these charges, you think for a second Pisco will be like, boy, that's bad that they brought that, because they only bring it if they're certain that they could win. You think he'll say that? That's different. Trump's bad. He's a bad dude. Do whatever you can to take him out. I love all the wailing and gnashing of the teeth. Well, Trump gets elected. My God, he'll go after his political opponents. Did you see Eric Holder the other day? I mean, it's laughable. It's shocking how people can't see it. And I'm tired of fucking people gaslighting these lefties I debate like Destiny, Pisco, and other people. I'm tired of sitting there and like trying to explain to them like they're arguing in good faith. They're not. They're sacks of shit. They're intentionally lying. Let's listen to an attorney general, former attorney general, Barack Obama's wingman. Let's listen to what he says the dangers of a Trump presidency would be. Ready?
Can you just describe a little bit in terms of the role of and how it would transform if an attorney general, we're not looking at things purely from the facts, purely from the evidentiary burden and how to meet it, but instead taking directives on who to prosecute from the President of the United States?
Sure. If the president told a compliant attorney general, I don't like what this congressman said about me or did to me over the course of the last 2-3 years, whatever, open an investigation on that person.
Remember Joe Biden and Barack Obama, we at least know with Mike Flynn, it was actually Joe Biden that suggested the Logan Act, which had never been used to successfully prosecute someone, be used to go after Mike Flynn for alleged lies that he never told. Right? So literally what Holder's talking about here actually occurred.
That attorney general could tell a compliant United States attorney to do just that. Talk to a compliant FBI director who could be replaced by the president to open an investigation and then to just look.
You mean like how they opened the investigation into Trump with Russiagate, including illegally spying on him? Did you notice Eric Holder isn't talking about that? That's weird. Let's see what he says the dangers of that would be, of opening an investigation against political opponent.
Through that person's life and look for anything that you possibly can find.
Oh, well, then you could look at that entire person's life and find anything that you could possibly find. Meaning exactly like they did with Trump and Manafort and Flynn and Papadopoulos and Cohen, and I could go on and on. Roger Stone. They said they're guilty of something. Now let's go through. For example, it was all about Russia collusion, but they didn't find anything about Russia collusion, did you?
Who's to say what you find in any person's life that might run afoul of the law, and even
right? That's something I say all the time, that if you say we're just going to investigate that person, I assume that 95% of the people in Washington, particularly people in national politics, probably have some sort of minor skeleton in their closet, so you could find something on them, a campaign finance, a tax evasion, something like that. Many of these laws are written so vaguely that even if you don't think you're running afoul of them, if some auditor went with a fine-tooth comb, they might be able to find it. So in other words, there's a danger of allowing the FBI to intentionally go after anyone that they dislike and saying, we'll find some sort of crime. That's exactly what I predicted in 2017 would happen with Trump with the Russiagate stuff, that they wouldn't find any evidence that there was any illegal wrongdoing with Trump or his team colluding with Russia to steal the election. But if you overturned their life and raided their lawyer's office in the middle of the night, etc., you would find some sort of crimes, which is exactly what they did. Then they point to those crimes that had nothing to do with the underlying allegation of Russia collusion and say, see, the investigation was legitimate. We found crimes. And this Eric Holder's giving this interview after that's occurred. And isn't saying, wow, it was. He's talking about how bad it would be if that shit was done to Democrats.
even beyond that, the mere fact of an investigation of a person who is a public figure can be reputation ruining, can be politically damaging, not even if you find anything, just the fact that the investigation itself exists. And if you've got the full weight of the Justice Department, the full weight of the presidency, the full weight of the FBI focusing on somebody like that, that can be extremely damaging to not only that person individually, but to our democracy writ large.
That is, he literally just explained to you what happened in 2016. What if the whole FBI and the Justice Department and the media and all of that, even if someone didn't commit a crime, if you're putting that full weight against someone, it could ruin them politically, even if they didn't do anything, and that harms our democracy. That's the former Attorney General telling you how bad it would be if Trump did exactly what the Democrats did to him. Why do Pisco and Destiny condone such corruption? Are they blinded by their biases? Or are they truly evil? Well, evil is a word. I wouldn't use the word evil, right? I think that they don't consciously believe that it's corruption. I don't believe. I believe that their biases won't allow them to do that. And the reason that they have this bias is they truly believe Donald Trump is evil. That's what they believe. They believe that Trump is so unique and so evil that anything against him is justified. And they will, with rose-colored glasses, refuse to see the corruption or make excuses of corruption in the efforts to bring down Donald Trump. And this is how 95% of the average people you see on the left is. It's why over and over when I talk to them about double standards, for example, when I was on a panel debating Destiny and Brianna Wu, right? Brianna Wu says what I've heard dozens of lefties say when I debate them. When they can't argue the facts anymore, they're forced to make concessions that still allow them to sort of have their worldview. And so when I start articulating how Hillary Clinton's team deleted subpoenaed evidence, which is a clear case of obstruction of justice, but the FBI allowed them to get away with that by getting immunity, and yet they did the exact opposite with Trump. With Trump, they went after everyone around him and threw the book at them and charged them with everything they could, hoping that they would get someone to flip. That's what they do every time. That's why they charged 20-something people and all these attorneys and this, that, and the other when it came to the January 6th case, because they're hoping that one of them will flip. They did the exact opposite in the Hillary case. They gave everyone immunity and then said, do any of you have anything negative to say about Hillary? And everyone said, no, we don't. We all did everything wrong ourselves. And the FBI said, sounds good to us. So when I bring this up and make this case, they say I'm a conspiracy theorist. They say that, well, actually, the FBI was just doing their job and it's within the scope of the FBI, blah, blah, blah. But the ultimate last defense, once they know they're losing, is, like with Brianna Wu, I think it was her, what she'll do is she'll say this, well, maybe you're right. Maybe they should have charged Hillary, but oh well. What they're really saying there is they don't give a shit about Hillary Clinton. They don't give a shit about the Democrats. They don't give a shit about the establishment as much as they give a shit about taking down Donald Trump. That's their agenda first and foremost. And make no mistake about it, it's not that Trump's unique. It's that they bought the bullshit that was sold as the mainstream narrative. DeSantis will be the next guy that will be just as bad, if not worse, than Trump. And then whoever the next person is after that, and after that, and after that. There will always be this boogeyman to them that they will be willing to say, this person's so evil that consciously or subconsciously, I'm willing to justify anything to bring down this evil person. they're a Nazi, they're a racist, the country's so in jeopardy if this person wins, anything will be justified, either consciously or subconsciously. I'll refuse to allow myself to believe the evidence of the corruption against this person. That's what they'll do. They have no problem. Hillary Clinton, believe it or not, is a dime a dozen. Establishment politician. There's thousands of them. They'll sacrifice one if it means taking down Trump. They don't give a shit. So then you have to explain to them, well, if you feel that Hillary probably should have been charged, my target isn't Hillary Clinton. My target's not Joe Biden. It's not Hunter Biden. It's not Barack Obama. It's not Eric Holder, right? My target is the bureaucracy that chose to treat them with the double standard. So if I make the case to you that you say, yeah, I guess maybe Hillary should have been charged, but that doesn't mean Trump shouldn't have been charged, then the follow-up question is, why do you accept an FBI that didn't do that then? And they don't have an answer. See, they mistake me. They always assume that you are what they are. So they assume that I just want to bring down Hillary Clinton, like they just want to bring down Donald Trump. Or I just want to bring down Joe Biden, like they want to bring down Trump. That's not who I am. In fact, I said over and over when it was unpopular, I wasn't a big fan of the lock her up thing. I actually probably believe that although Hillary Clinton did commit a crime, having the server with classified information at her home in ways that she wasn't supposed to, I think it's a crime that 85% of Washington does. Illegally mishandles classified documents. And they don't get charged, so she probably shouldn't have been charged based on the precedent that's set. Now, if you wanted to charge her and then charge Mike Pence and Trump, okay. But I could see if I was on the left being like, so you can charge her and no one else? I could see that. Now, there are other things. There's probably more serious crimes with the Clinton Foundation, more serious crimes when it comes to the destruction of subpoenaed evidence, things like that. But as to that initial charge, well, no, that's absolutely right, Econoboy. Nikki Haley wouldn't be that way. Mitt Romney wouldn't be that way. George Bush wouldn't be that way. Right? It's like I watched, by the way, figure this out. When I watched the debate the other night, the Republican debate, if I stream the Republican debate to YouTube, my ass will be handed to me like that. YouTube will remove that video and probably give me a community strike. I couldn't find the debate. I think it was on Newsmax or something, and I don't have cable. The only clip I could find of the debate, both the Newsom debate and that debate, were left-wing streamers. So in this case, it was David Pakman. So David Pakman streamed the debate. Somehow he gets away with it. I'm sure he removed the debate afterwards, but interesting. He could have tens of thousands of people watching, and he doesn't get it kicked at the time. But if I had 20 people watching, I've done it. That's why one of the reasons I don't stream the debate, right? But David Pakman's on there. You know, just guess, who do you think David Pakman thought won the debate? You had Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, Ron DeSantis, and Vivek. Who do you think David Pakman, big lefty, who do you think he thought won the debate? Just take a guess. Right, Chris Christie. Who would have thought? Well, Christie's one of those good Republicans. He criticized Trump. He's willing to call Trump. He was saying good shit. And then if they had to pick next, it's Nikki Haley. Because she's a neocon that's cheering on the same, like, Ukraine wars and, you know, shit like that the left likes. So they might not like what she's saying on trans issues and stuff, but they ain't going to treat her. She's just George Bush. They went after George Bush hard, but not like Trump. Anyone who they think is an actual threat to stopping sort of the cultural dominance that they have, then they'll treat like Hitler. So if they think DeSantis is a threat like that, they'll treat him like Hitler. If they think Vivek's is a threat like that, they'll treat him like Hitler. That's what's going on. They're not going to do that to Nikki Haley. Of course not. It's like when I go on a panel. You know, I tell this story all the time. I'm on the panel before the 2020 election. I think it was Dylan Burns' panel. 4 lefties and 4 righties. The last topic, quite simple. Who are you voting for? Biden or Trump? Lefties go. First lefty, Biden. 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 Then we get to the righties. Biden. Biden. I'm not voting. And then me, I'm like, Trump. That's the panel, you see? And then when I leave that panel, the left-wing, overwhelmingly left-wing audience is like, well, those other Republicans were fine, but Rob is just, oh my God, he's horrible. Right. If you just agree with 90% of what they say, then they won't treat you like Hitler. They won't. They won't ruin your life. That's absolutely true, Econoboy. Absolutely true. But anyone that's seen as an actual threat to their agenda, yes, they will treat like that. What's up, Aftershock? That's what they'll do. True. So the truth is, the truth is, why are Pisco and Destiny, why do they allow this corruption? It's because they deep down hate Trump so much that they're okay with the corruption. And so they either see that there's corruption and they say, I don't give a fuck, I'll just lie about it because I hate Trump. Or their hatred of Trump allows their vision to be clouded so that they assume any action taken against him must have been justified and so it's okay. And even when they have to bite the bullet, like Pisco would have to bite the bullet when it comes to the FBI legally spying on Trump, he'll just say, it's not that big of a deal. But then he'll be talking like Eric Holder there, will be like, can you imagine if Trump got elected and directed his FBI to blah, 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 that would be terrible. But when it happened to Trump, that's not that big of a deal. What do you want? Comey's gone, what can you do? Do I think Haley's 99% Democrat in positioning? No. Did I say that? I think that for years, the Republican and Democratic Party is really a uniparty that has disagreements on issues that they know that their bases have disagreements with, but really don't mean a shit to them. So they probably don't much care about gay marriage or abortion rights and things like that. They don't really give a shit. Nikki Haley probably don't really give a fuck about trans issues. She just knows it's red meat for her base. But when it comes to the important things like bailing out banks or the foreign wars or not actually doing anything to secure the border, when it comes to that shit that's enriching the corrupt people in our government, yeah, they all agree on that shit. So a lefty will say, I might not like Nikki Haley, but she's supporting funding Ukraine, and that's important. So I would rather vote for a Democrat than her, but on that issue, right, I just explained that, Econoboy. She adopts the Democratic messaging on the issues that matter. I said they're like the neocon messaging that the Democrats agree with at this point. That's why she won't be attacked like that. She'll be seen as the lesser of two evils. They'd still attack her, they'd say she's terrible, but they're not going to attack her like they do Trump. And they would wait and hold back on those attacks until she's the nominee. But on the big issue, she's against Trump. She stands against... that's all good in the hood for them. They don't look at DeSantis like that or Vivek like that. You'd rather Biden than Haley? Be close. I wouldn't vote for Nikki Haley. No chance. I'd probably vote third party at that point. Which is a criticism of me. Because if my criticism to like a DeSantis supporter is, well, if DeSantis loses, why wouldn't you vote for Trump? Because Biden would be terrible. They could say, well, if Haley would win, why wouldn't you vote for her? Well, I have my reasons. I did say that after show. Yeah, Econoboy, you could be right. There's certainly a huge push for the establishment wing of the Republican Party to want Nikki Haley. There's going to be massive money behind her. Massive money. And she will adopt positions she doesn't believe in, that she thinks red meat for her base, and that it'll convince enough people that she might be in the primary position, particularly if Trump loses. That'll be the battle. That's the argument I'm having with DeSantis people. DeSantis people are like, well, if Trump wins the primary, we'd rather him lose in 2024 and have a Biden administration because that'll help DeSantis in 2028. It'll be DeSantis' party then. I'm not so sure. DeSantis might get likened to Trump and it'll become Nikki Haley's party. Maybe. And they might say, well, Nikki Haley wouldn't have a chance to win because all the Trump people and DeSantis people wouldn't vote for Nikki Haley. That might not matter. The Democrats might do so shitty in 2024 that you get moderate Democrats that would be willing to vote for Nikki Haley. But that's to answer your question. Do I think that these left-wing people, I mean, they have no defense. You've seen the hoops they're willing to jump through. You've seen it. And all you have to do is ask yourself, if it was on the other foot. If we found out, for example, that before the Mar-a-Lago raid, that they subpoenaed records, and Trump's team deleted those records. Literally deleted them. And the guy that deleted it had a meeting with Trump's top lawyer, talked to Giuliani 3 days before he deleted them, and then deleted them. And the FBI said, we'd like to give you immunity. And that guy said, oh, okay, well, here's why I deleted them, because I was supposed to delete them 6 months ago, but I had an oh shit moment and forgot, so I deleted them today. And they said, well, what did you talk to Giuliani about? And he says, I don't remember. And the FBI said, okay, sounds good. You think someone like Pisco would be like, oh, yeah, no charges. You think? What's up, I'm having trouble reading you. Folk on Davis? How's the Goon Cave coming? It's coming along. Yeah, Econoboy sucked, too, when it comes to that. I don't think he's on that level. I don't. But, the problem with Econoboy is it's someone whose focus in education is primarily in the economy. To cheer for policies that so blatantly would destroy the economy it's laughable. How's that velocity of money today, Econoboy, by the way? How's that going? Just so happens inflation almost goes with an exact curve of the M2 money supply. Yeah. And there you have it. Lockdown man speaks up. Inflation's not about the money. It's about the velocity of the money, not the praying of the money. You have to understand this equation. It's the velocity of the money. We could print tomorrow. We could quadruple the supply of money. There's no inflation. There's no inflation. It's the velocity. It's the velocity of the money. That's the problem. Weird though. He didn't have the policies. Wasn't advocating for the policies that would have prevented inflation. We have inflation because years and years of devaluing our money through printing, which was accelerated massively during COVID, in addition to lockdowns, which caused supply crunches. That's why we have massive inflation. The economy is so shitty. As I predicted, right at the beginning, you could see in March and April of 2020, unlike you, I was saying, how many times did people on my channel hear me saying this? I said, there's 3 possible things that could harm us for COVID. First is COVID itself. I have no idea. It could kill 5,000 to 5 million people. I don't know. The truth is, we as a country will survive this at the end of the day. The second is the reaction to COVID. How it will cause people mental health and physical health, and how it will harm us economically. For the next 10 years, we'll be suffering the ramifications of the economic policies of things like lockdowns and things like that. I think that will cause us more damage than the actual virus itself, but eventually we as a country could overcome that. Even if it takes a decade, we'll be able to overcome that. The third thing that could cause us harm is the people of the United States willingly giving up their freedom in unprecedented ways to fight an unknown. And that is something that our country may never come back from. Because if we allow them to lock us down and say we can't see our family and our kids can't go to school and we can't go to work, and all of the things that the Bill of Rights guarantees us we can't do because this virus could kill an unknown amount of people, they'll be able to use that excuse over and over. For example, they'll be able to say, well, geez, if we lock down because millions could die of COVID, with climate change, billions could die. So we need to have even more stringent lockdowns. And that's the biggest threat that we have. How was it that I was right about that? Right out of the gate, how was I right? When none of the economists were saying, whoa, where's your proof that lockdowns will save significant amounts of people because this is going to cause economic devastation that we'll be suffering from for years? Where were they? Where was Paul Krugman? Where was Econoboy? Where were the rest of the economists? It's weird. I don't remember seeing them saying that. I remember me, who's not someone who, in the words like Econoboy, as he says, is, and I'm quoting, I believe, well respected in the field of economics. No one's ever said that about me. Fuck, I'm bad at handling my own money. Where were they? Where were the experts? Well, then they were telling, you know what we need to do? We need to massively print and send these bailouts and send all this money to people. Okay, we did that. And then we had ridiculous amounts of inflation. And they said, well, it wasn't because of that. It wasn't because of money printing. We need to print more money. We need the government to have more control. That's what. Did you notice? Did you ever notice that? When their prescriptions fail, they never say, oh, fuck, we directly caused that. Our bad. We need to reverse these policies. They say, no, we were right. You're wrong. What we did didn't cause it, or it was inevitable. Now you need to give us more control and leave us do more stuff. But trust us, the money printing didn't cause it. I do have an awesome light, yeah. Yeah, they don't get... to be honest, TLSKB, and I don't care. Econoboy could joke. He says, I'm only voting for Biden if he runs on lockdowns in 2024. It's fine. He could joke about it. I don't give a shit. But they really don't give a fuck. Like, Econoboy doesn't give a fuck. The same people, like, I'm sure Econoboy probably in his personal life was telling people, like, what do you want, grandma to die? If you don't wear that mask, you want grandma to die? If you're questioning, like, that's probably the piece of shit that he was. That's probably what he was. But then he'll flippantly joke about all the people that lost their lives as a result of lockdowns. Flippantly joke about it. Yeah, I still like to talk about economics on my channel, but and I did personally endorse the policies that got us into these economic troubles in the first place, but I like to joke about it. I like to joke about those lockdowns that I pushed for. Anyways, follow me for economic advice. No thanks, Econoboy. I'm glad that maybe you should try your hand in the field of comedy, because you're not doing the economic thing so well. Printing money doesn't cause inflation at all. No chance. So, anyways, I need to wrap up. It's 11 o'clock, so despite all I've said, I still talk to Econoboy if he wants to go. We actually had a reasonable conversation about sovereign wealth funds not long ago. But he's a sack of shit when it comes to that issue, and make no mistake about it, as someone who focuses on economics, that is the most important issue. It is, bar none. Imagine being so wrong on the biggest issue in your field. There you have it. So, let's see if we can find someone to raid. So, I was doing this on a different computer. My laptop I brought back out of the closet, and I think it ran pretty well. There were a couple times when I was trying to show videos where it was literally sounded like it was going to blow up and overheat. But other than that, let's see who we could raid. Oh, who's streaming? Well... to BX Bullet. Why not? Thank you, everyone. I appreciate all the kind words, the financial support, the people that watch me. I appreciate all that. I really do. Thank you so much for tuning in. I wish that I was more consistent with my streaming and that I was doing better for you all, but it's still fun doing it. I think this was a good show. Just the right amount of yelling at people and screaming, but also having a coherent thought most of the way through it. So I hope you enjoyed it. I should be back around 8 p.m. tomorrow. I don't know, I might review the second half of that AJW Destiny debate. I got to tell you that I was nonplussed. I wasn't very impressed with either side in that debate and found it to be quite boring. If I'm honest with you. So if anyone has any debate recommendations that are between an hour and a half, maybe I guess at the longest 2 hours, please go ahead and message me. The best place to do that would be on Twitter. Send me a direct message on Twitter, and maybe I'll cover that. Or maybe I won't cover a debate tomorrow. Who knows? Who knows what we'll do? But thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate it. Notice that I brought back some old music for my closing music, so I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much. As always, everyone, have a good one.